tone. It's driving me crazy.
It's unfair.
You need to get some help.
I am. But I get knowledgeable help. That's the problem. What letter are you? Which one? Yeah, which item are you speaking of? Uh-oh.
Oh my.
Sure. Walter got it. They go.
So you want to speak on
What
it?
Walter got his work out.
You
I don't have one in
want
my,
a
my spot over
Hold
here
on.
is what I was looking at.
On to yours, then.
So I'll start off with A.
Hold on, cause I gonna cross it again. One.
Oh,
If you don't, I'll meet one up with the room. And he usually have one. All right.
So it's A, B.
put some over there. Say that one more time. There's a main agenda there. They wanted television content.
Yes. So Ms. Larson, there's agendas in the back.
Which one is that? Public.
You're at A, so this is B. You want to speak on B? I mean, move over here.
Well, we'll be here all night for A. And F. You'll be here for this one, right?
Those out there, can you please lower your voice? Are you ready to start the meeting? It is March 23rd, 2023. It is 6:38 p.m. This is the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board, City of Riviera Beach, Florida. I would like to welcome everyone here. Thank you very much for coming. Community input is something we all would like to hear before we vote on any project. Again, thank you for your attendance. Few items. If you wish to speak on any item on this agenda, please complete a public comment card and provide it to the Planning and Zoning Board staff. Cards must be submitted prior to board discussion of an item. Did everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Public comment cards submitted to the team member prior to you speaking on an item. The way we're going to hold tonight's meeting will be, the city will present the plan. The developers will present their plan. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to hold public comments. You might have a few questions from the dais before we start, but then we're going to ask for public comments before we vote on a matter. Okay? And please, I understand there's a lot of enthusiastic individuals out there, but I demand a quorum. When anybody's speaking, please quiet down and respect the person who has the dais. Have a moment of silence. Please stand for the. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City team member, would you please do a roll call?
Mr. Anthony Brown, Ms. Renee Burgess,
Here.
Ms. Evelyn Harris Clark,
Present.
Mr. James Gallen, Ms. Margaret Shepherd,
Here.
Mr. William Riley.
Wiley, present.
Wiley, Mr. Frank Fernandez.
Present, and also we have Mr. Russell Barnes, our first alternate.
Okay. So noted.
Do we have an acknowledgement of board member absence notification?
None.
Additions to the, or deletions to the agenda?
None from staff.
Do we have any disclosure from board members for this meeting?
None.
Okay, let's move on to adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
You ready for us to call the roll?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Margaret Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. James Gallen, Mr. William Wiley,
Yes.
Mr. Russell Barnes,
Yes.
Miss Evelyn Harris Clark,
Yes.
Miss Rena Burgess,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Brown, Mr. Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
That motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Walter, Mr. Brown's mic is not working. Thank you. We now move on to approval of the minutes from February 23rd, 2023. Have a motion?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second. Miss Margaret Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. James Gallen, Mr. William Wiley,
Yes.
Mr. Russell Barnes,
Yes.
Miss Evelyn Harris Clark, Miss Rena Burgess,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Brown, Mr. Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
That vote passes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sermon's unfinished business, we have none.
None from staff.
Now, for the record, we do have a quorum of board members. Mr. Barnes voting. Is he voting on or just providing input for our alternate?
We will go ahead and confer voting rights on Mr. Barnes.
So we have voting rights for Mr. Barnes?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying. Okay, Mr. Sermons, new business.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and read the ordinance into the record. This is item A under new business, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a request from Safe Harbor Marinas requesting an abandonment AB-0002 of the following right-of-way segments. First, a portion of Avenue B as in boy. Second, a portion of Avenue C as in Charlie. Third, a portion of East 21st Street. And fourth, a portion of East 22nd Street in Riviera Beach, Florida, attachment A as in apple, and providing for an effective date and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, you do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance for public comment cards for item A is now closed.
Okay, just for confirmation, there was a little, it's AB 22-002, am I correct?
AB-22-0002. So
Thank
there's
you.
3 zeros.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Sermons.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. For the record, I am Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services for the City of Riviera Beach. I am before you to give the presentation for staff. Although the header for item A was read into the record, the staff presentation encompasses all of the applications that were submitted as they work together for one project. However, before your votes on each item, of course, the header would need to be read into the record.
That is correct. Thank you, sir.
If that satisfies the board, I will proceed.
Go.
Thank you, sir. All right, and the headers The header for this item has been read, so I will skip through those and get to the project. This is a request from Safe Harbor Rybovich Marinas to construct a working waterfront campus here in Riviera Beach. Before you are the PCN numbers of the properties in question as shown in your backup. However, I do need to pause here to notify you that there is an amendment to this list. There was an error where 2 of those PCN numbers in your backup were erroneously included. So staff will pass out to you the updated and correct list for the backup and for the record.
Do you have the incorrect PCN numbers and the correct PCN numbers for the record? Can you read that into the record? Or do you need to?
I'm sorry, the list right here has all of the correct PCN numbers. Would you like me to read all of those into the record? Okay, we will make sure this is a part of the record in the backup for this meeting so that the corrected document is available to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant, Safe Harbor Marinas, is requesting approval of 6 items associated with multiple parcels of land to assemble a new campus to operate their boat repair and maintenance business. The applications under consideration tonight are 1, abandonment application AB 22-0002, abandonment of city right-of-way. Land use map amendment application LU 23-0001. Zoning map amendment application ZA 22-0002. Zoning text amendment ZA 23-0001. Site plan application SP 22-0014. And finally, plat application PA 23-0002. The location of the project is indicated by the red dot on your screen, and it is overlaid on the city boundaries, which are outlined in blue. The project location and the boundaries of the proposed campus are outlined by the hashed shape before you. Excuse me.
Could you hold just for a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
We can't see. Is there a way to maybe dim these lights on this side? They can't see on the.
I'm not sure.
Now, can we go back just Ms. Clark, is that okay now?
No, Mr. Sermons, do you have the little red?
The pointer?
Yes, the pointer.
Yes.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. The project boundaries are shown in the hatched area here, and it outlines the proposed project area. This is a picture on Broadway looking north, showing the proposed redevelopment property on the right side of the photo. This is a photo from Broadway looking east to East 22nd Court from Broadway. This photo is from Broadway looking east to East 22nd Street. This is a photo from the northeast corner of the proposed development project looking south to Avenue B from East 22nd Court. And again, the project area is outlined with the red shape on the screen before you for the purposes of creating a boat repair and maintenance yard. Currently, about half of the land area under consideration today is already under operation of the applicant. The existing conditions are a mix of vacant and developed parcels. There are approximately 33 parcels as listed in your backup that are involved in this proposed development. The total size of the project area is approximately 21.8 acres. The existing zoning is downtown core, downtown residential, and downtown marine. And finally, the future land use designation for the proposed project area are downtown mixed use and working waterfront. So for the proposed future land use change application, they are proposing to change the boundary of the area indicated by the red line here with downtown mixed use on the west side of the line, and currently working waterfront is on the east side of the line. Their proposed future land use change and redesignation would result in this line demarcating between downtown mixed use and working waterfront for the majority of the campus. Similarly, with the proposed zone change request, currently downtown residential is located at the northern part of the project area. Downtown core zoning district is indicated by the red, and downtown marine by the pale blue color. The proposed rezoning would result in the elimination of the downtown residential zoning district and leaving downtown core along the street frontage along Broadway, and the balance becoming downtown marine, which is deemed most appropriate for the proposed use at the properties. In addition to these requests, there is a proposed text amendment. Section 31-609 of the city's land development code.
Hate to
Yes.
interrupt you, Ms. Board Member Burgess has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, quick question. On the backup you just provided for the parcels included, I have 30, but you just stated there were 33 parcels?
Yes. And if we could, staff, if we could verify the number of parcels on the handout versus what's in the backup, just so we can verify the number of parcels. There should have been 2 parcels removed, and we'll make sure that that is corrected before we finish.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Sermons, out of an abundance of caution, we're going to read into the record the correct PCN numbers so that we'll have that on the record, but we will not read the entire numbers because the first few digits they're dedicated to Riviera Beach property. So we'll just read the last 4 numbers for the essence of time.
But what's in question is the number. There's 30 parcels provided on the sheet, and Mr. Sermon stated 33 parcels.
Okay, so what we'll do is the list that's in your backup has a certain number of parcels. We'll double check how many is on there to make sure what I put on my PowerPoint is the right number, unless I left one off, and we'll make sure we have that rectified before we close this item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As far as the proposed text amendment submitted by the applicant, it deals with section 31-609 of the city's land development code, which is related to landscaping requirements for development projects. Currently, section C talks about the minimum landscaped areas, and in black is the text that's currently in our land development code. What's in green is what's proposed by the applicant. Currently, commercial and other non-residential development, a commercial or other non-residential development being new development, renovation development, or vacant development shall include 1 existing or planted tree for every 1,500 square feet or fraction thereof of development site. The owner shall landscape not less than 20% of the developed site. The proposed additions are working waterfront projects within the downtown marine zoning district and projects within the port land use district may submit a request to provide a contribution in lieu of meeting the required landscaping requirements for consideration by city council at the time of site plan consideration. The contribution shall be calculated based on the cost to construct those improvements that would be required to meet the minimum standards. Only the minimum reduction of landscaping to allow for operational feasibility will be considered. The city shall reserve funds provided under this requirement for future landscaping and beautification expenditures. Additionally, there's a proposed abandonment application associated with this project. In front of you, the picture depicts what streets currently city right-of-ways are being proposed for abandonment. They are a portion of Avenue B, a portion of Avenue C, a portion of East 21st Street, and a portion of East 22nd Street. Before you now is the current plat of the area. As you can see, there are multiple smaller properties that are involved in this existing plat. Several of them have already been combined through a lot combination at the county, although not replatted. So the tax appraiser's boundaries show some of these lots already combined, whereas this plat would clean this up once and for all if approved to make one contiguous property. And this is the proposed plat for the property, extending from 22nd Court to the north, with the boundaries of where Avenue B currently runs, all the way to the southern part of the site where the applicant already operates a boat yard. There are various easements that would be involved with this plat, utility easements.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Board Member
Yes.
Clark has a question.
Can you go
Yes, ma'am.
back to the slide where it discussed the abandonment? No, I'm sorry, go back to the one where it's existing, right there.
Okay.
Is this open to the public today, or is this open to the public where someone is traversing by foot or by car to date?
The streets shown right here,
Yes, the way that it is now?
not all of them.
Okay, let's, Mr. Chairman, you heard the question from Ms. Clark.
Correct. The street shown here was previously abandoned by the city several years ago. The majority of what's shown here is currently open to the public.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Again, this is the proposed plat. It shows multiple easements, and the plat has utility easements as well as access easements. The proposed access easement here would go up where Avenue B is requested to be abandoned, as well as along here where 22nd Street currently lies. They are proposing a permanent access easement to allow any other properties here to be able to go in and out of their businesses.
Wow.
The proposed site plan is before you on the screen. They are proposing to close off the existing streets here with a wall and landscaping, and dedicating a public right-of-way of which would be called Avenue D here, which would also include parking along the street to serve businesses here along Broadway that currently do not have parking, and that has caused some issues and frustrations for business owners here. So the new Avenue D would include public parking, which has been deemed a benefit for some of the parking and circulation issues in this area. The right-of-way here would end at a guard gate, and the rest of this would be the private area for the workers and subcontractors for the operation. There are proposed to be multiple buildings in the new development, one here, a parking structure here, and two office buildings here and here along Broadway. The majority of the campus would house boat slips for the maintenance and repairs of the clients of the property owner. This is another version of the site plan shown with colors. Again, 22nd Court, proposed Avenue D with parking. This would be 22nd Street, and then the balance of the property within the boatyard walls.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. May I ask a question? You said you're going to abandon D. Is that what you said?
No, they would be proposing Avenue D. This street does not exist currently, and they would constructed and dedicated to the city.
What did you say about 22nd Street?
22nd Street would be, I'll go back. 22nd Street would be abandoned for the portion shown here, and this remaining portion would remain a public street that would connect to the Avenue D that's proposed.
And 21st Street will be what?
Here.
21st. I thought you said it was 22nd.
22nd, I'm sorry, one second.
I think it's going the other way.
Let me make sure I'm listing these correctly. So this would be 21st Street, 22nd Street, and 22nd Court.
22nd Court, okay.
Yes.
So 22nd Court is public. Oh, that's
22nd Court is a public street. It would remain public.
Remain public.
And the applicant would actually, under the proposed agreement, be reconstructing 22nd Court with sidewalks and curb and gutter on both sides and landscaping along their property boundary. 22nd Street, they are proposing to abandon except for the point here that will connect to the traffic signal here. And then they would create the street Avenue D to connect from 22nd Court and the rest of the neighborhood in this area.
Got it.
So traffic would, if to get to this light, traffic would come down 22nd Court, Avenue D,
there and then
and then out to
Broadway.
the stoplight that exists there. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sermons, I believe it is 22nd Court. I want to make sure I'm speaking about the right road.
Here,
No, right below, it must be, okay.
this would be 22nd
Okay,
Street.
great. That's 20,
Street.
Street, 22nd Street.
right, got it. Then if I go all the
Sorry,
way, if you go all the way to the far right-hand side, it runs smack into what?
Avenue B.
It'll be
And beyond Avenue,
Beyond Avenue B over here,
yeah,
there are existing properties there. I think I have an image of those. On this image is Avenue B,
right.
and there are some existing properties here.
And can you go back to where you just were with the request for abandonment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. Again, this is the proposed plat that would include easements for utilities, a bus shelter easement to be dedicated to Palm of Note. This is East 22nd Court, which would be the northern boundary of the campus. This street would be reconstructed with curb and gutter on both sides, and the sidewalk is proposed on the southern side with landscaping added at the entryway, and also large amounts of landscaping along the proposed 8-foot masonry wall to line the northern boundary of the property with trees, hedges, and landscaping and other beautification as a part of the reconstruction and closing off the north end of this campus to the neighborhood.
So 22nd Court will be the new ingress and egress for those on B. Am I correct that are not part of this plan? They will use 22nd Court. Am I correct?
No, the applicant has proposed that 22nd Street would allow through access to any businesses there. There's a gate here, and this gate is for emergency access only. So no commercial traffic should utilize 22nd Court to access anything going on here.
Right.
They would come in at 22nd Street or 20th Street to get into the campus or to the back here.
But earlier you stated there were some residentials and non-marina development, businesses or properties on B. Am I correct?
Yes, there,
Okay,
yes.
so
the property's
how
here.
are they going to egress and ingress to those properties? Are they going to be in 22nd Court, in and out?
They would be coming through 22nd Street, and I can allow the applicant to talk more about the arrangements they've made and the access that they've discussed through here for those businesses. But in discussions with staff, in consideration with concerns from the community about commercial traffic going through these neighborhoods and affecting the residents and their quality of life there. Staff has discussed those streets being closed off, the existing streets being closed off, and a wall going here and a gate here at Avenue B so that that traffic goes in and out through Broadway. And what this proposed layout organizes.
And we met with our public safety, police department, fire department to make sure that by abandoning those streets, there won't be an issue providing service to those businesses or residents on B.
That's correct.
You're going to cover that?
Well, they are reviewers on this application. The fire department as well signed off on this, that there were no concerns with the fire trucks and emergency access vehicles getting into the neighborhood. So they were a part of the review team for this project.
Thank you.
Yes. So again, that northern boundary, additional care was pushed upon the applicant to make sure that this northern boundary is well landscaped and visually appealing, and that there is a masonry wall separating those non-residential uses from the neighborhood here. Also, and again, this is, I've pulled this out because this is the proposed landscaping in phase 1 of this project. They are proposing a phased build out of this campus. During phase 1, which does not include the buildings along the street, they have proposed a heavily landscaped frontage along Broadway to ensure a visually appealing experience as you're driving on Broadway and looking towards this campus. It also has an 8-foot masonry wall with heavy landscaping in front of it to shield and screen any of the boat operations going on to the east of it. And this would be installed during phase 1, whereas the buildings would not be there yet. Yes,
We
ma'am.
have a question.
The buildings here, are those the new proposed buildings that will have retail at the bottom and the remainder of their operation that is on Broadway?
To my knowledge, there's no proposed retail uses in here, but I will defer to the applicant on that during their presentation to detail what is intended exactly for these buildings when they come online.
Right, because I may be under a different understanding. So I just want either clarity from you or from the applicant.
Okay, and if the applicant could note to clarify that during their presentation. Before you now are the proposed elevations of the main structure.
I'm not under a different clarification. Those are the buildings that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So,
You were referring to the other buildings that,
no, those two buildings, as I had set in on the Safe Harbor meeting, and they discussed the schematic of those two buildings. So I am under the right understanding. It's now since
Okay.
I see it, because this seems familiar, this presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. These are the two main buildings proposed along Broadway that once constructed during the latter phases would provide a barrier between the other side, the less visually appealing aspects of the project. But during phase 1, before these are built, there would be a masonry wall and heavy vegetation and landscaping along this frontage. But these are the proposed elevations for the project. And at the bottom is the proposed parking structure. This is a rendering of what a full build out would look like from Broadway. and a 3D perspective, bird's eye perspective of what the campus will look like from Broadway with the two aforementioned buildings here. The buildings here are not part of the current development plan, and the boat repair yard behind it, parking structure to the rear, and the two proposed buildings on the north side of the proposed campus. An additional community benefit pressed upon the applicant is at the end of East 22nd Court. This is a visual provided of a concept. It has not been fully designed. They have had communications and conversations with the neighborhood on what the community members would like to see at the end of 22nd Court, which they are reconstructing again with sidewalks, curb and gutter. I'm at the terminus of the street, which ends at the Lake Worth intercoastal. There would be some type of observation deck, and this is something that the community has been supportive based on the information we've seen. So there has been an extensive review by staff and legal of this proposed project, and is found to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and code of ordinances, and is now ready for the board's consideration. We've reviewed it against the comprehensive plan, the zoning codes. We've looked at levels of service, compatibility, landscaping, lighting, parking, and traffic. Staff has received emails and phone calls related to this project. We've received no emails or phone calls in support, and we have 7 emails and phone calls in opposition to the project. The applicant was requested and strongly encouraged to have community meetings regarding this project. They provided evidence of 3 community meetings, November 7th, 2022, February 11th of 23, and February 13th of 2023. The attendance observed is listed on the table before you, and they collected responses from the attendance during these meetings and provided those to us. Of what was provided to us, these are the numbers that we saw for attendance and the amount of responses submitted. Based on those responses, this is what feedback was received from the residents. There were 5 questions asked of them of what they would like to see if the project comes into fruition, related to sidewalks along 22nd Court, which the applicant has agreed to reconstruct. Many have said they want to see a sidewalk. Some have said they want to see a sidewalk on the north side. Most have said they definitely want to see it on the south side. Overwhelming majority have said they definitely want to see an observation deck. Most want to see seating on that observation deck, and most strongly want to see repaving of the streets in the neighborhood. This is staff's summary of the response forms that were provided by the applicant. So of all of the conversations, phone calls, emails,
Sherman?
yes,
Quick question, if you can go back to the previous slide.
yes, ma'am.
So if it was just 5 questions on the survey, were they provided an opportunity to provide their own questions and those answers?
Yes, in the forms that staff observed, there was a space at the bottom for them to write in the comments that they had. And those forms are in your backup as well, so you can see the names and addresses of those who filled them out. Some of them took advantage of writing in their own comments or questions at the bottom. Others just checked the boxes for the questions that were provided. And we did have a staff member present at 2 of those 3 meetings to verify that it took place and provide observations of the conversations that were had. So we did verify that at least 2 of these meetings took place.
Okay, thank you for that additional information.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair, Mr. Sermons, can you go back to the configuration of the buildings? I just want to make sure that I am clear. From my understanding, the campus was supposed to, at least the applicant suggested that they would fit into the reimagined Riviera Beach downtown schematic, that there would be retail space for non-marine-based businesses in the event that this corridor is downtown and other non-marine-based businesses would drive and start to spur a downtown. So from your staff understanding, are you sure that there is not going to be any retail space, or do you know that it's going to be retail space? Or if something changed from the last time I saw this presentation, maybe the applicant could ask that, but I just wanted to understand what the staff was understanding with this campus.
Okay. So as far as that, what we are
Could you go
reviewing.
back to where the gray buildings were, so everybody can really understand what I'm talking about?
Okay, we'll do. Before I go back, I do want to point out the proposed rezoning. So they are proposing that the buildings that will be along Broadway remain zoned as downtown core. And downtown core allows a plethora of commercial uses to effectuate that mixed use walkable downtown that the city is striving for along Broadway. That zoning designation would remain here. So in the buildings that they are proposing, those are the uses that would be allowed. It is a little beyond the power of staff to control what businesses and uses they put in here beyond what's allowed by zoning. So if and when they construct these, we've been told that the applicant is consolidating its operations in Palm Beach. They currently have their main office at their West Palm Beach campus. That office is closing, and those offices and their area headquarters would be in these buildings. So it is our understanding that this will be a mix of offices and other uses for their subcontractors that work out at the site, out of these buildings. It does not preclude them from having commercial storefront businesses in here. That's what's allowed in these buildings. That's what staff's understanding of what they want to do with these buildings is. But as far as what they said at a community meeting, I can't verify that. There was a staff member that was present that we could probably verify, but that's the staff understanding, and that's what the zoning code would allow there.
Sure, I understand. I just wanted to make sure I understood what staff understood based upon what I and other people had heard. So the applicant is here. I want them to address that because that was clearly articulated, because I remember specifically asking the question about non-marine-based businesses, what was going to be there. I didn't particularly care for the answer that I got as a project manager, but that's why it's stuck in my head when I'm looking at this, because I asked that question specifically. And I just wanted to understand what staff had understood, the schematic of what this was going to be. But I'm welcoming the applicant to share.
Understood.
Chairman, to add to that, there will be businesses on Broadway where they can still build, somebody else can come in and build businesses, commercial. The previous screenshot where you said.
Where I showed the
an area on
zoning?
Broadway where it's going to remain business. So in theory, when you go back,
Part of the red.
Okay.
one more, the red, see the red?
Yes.
That's still
here.
downtown
Still
core.
downtown.
Exactly.
Right, correct. So we can still attract business, commercial businesses, restaurants, and others into that area. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. And we were mindful of that when discussing the zone change requests here of the city's long-term goals along this corridor. And that's one of the primary reasons that it's still remaining downtown core. So, once a building is constructed, over the lifespan of it, many uses can come in and out of it. But we did want to make sure that our desired mix of uses are allowed there, which is the downtown core zoning district. They're only proposing buildings right here. To our knowledge and to what's been presented to staff right now, The buildings, this northern end here are not proposed for demolition at this time, and the majority of their operations would take place in the blue area, and in later phases, they would construct those two buildings that you see in the architectural elevations.
Chair?
Yes, ma'am,
I
Ms.
just
Clark.
want to make a comment. It's true, what you said in terms of the outline of the red, and I understand the space that the applicant is here for, but the bigger picture and a broader picture in my mind is to be realistic about the really vision of a downtown actually happening, because if you look at it, it's not that much space. And I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, beyond where the applicant owns, who owns what, and, you know, they can do whatever they want to do in terms of selling that or a business coming in.
Well, those are going to be questions for the applicant when they take the dais.
So
Mr.
proceed.
Chair. Mr. Chair, yes, I want you to please focus on listening to the individual talk about shops. I was in 4 meetings. No, let me go back. I was in 3 meetings with Robovich, 1 with the mayor. I never heard anybody talk about shops or spaces, or, so maybe the applicant, I hope they clear that up, because I keep hearing this. The shops, I never heard it. So maybe it's me, and I hope they clear that up, because people are talking about it. They feel like that particular area would be overwhelmed if they put the shops there on 22nd Street or wherever they're talking about.
Mhm.
So that need to be cleared up.
And
That
make
part
sure-
I don't see.
Let me. Okay, I'm sorry, the shops you're referring to?
Yes,
So
where are
this
the
is-
shops gonna be?
This is 22nd, East 22nd Court here,
Okay,
and there is a building proposed here and here. Are those the ones you're referring to?
yes, I want to make clear, where were the shops going to be? I was
Okay.
in the meetings, but I don't remember them talking about shops. So now, you know, my ears are going up. Where are these shops going to be? Because right now that area is congested.
Mhm.
So I need clarification of what we're talking about.
Okay, and again, I would have to defer to the applicant on what activities they expect to take place in this building. There is another one proposed down here in a more remote portion of the proposed campus. And then, of course, the 2 along Broadway. But I would have to defer to the applicant and to make sure they clarify on whether there's shops or what uses would take place in those. Would that satisfy your question if they answer?
Yes, I need clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I haven't heard it. So right now, I want to know where, because right now in that area, it is congested. If it's going to be shops, where?
Okay. And I will just restate that based on the proposal here, this street, although right now, I believe there is, I've been there personally and seen the vehicles and traffic going through here, and significant portions of it not being residential traffic. With the proposal, the entrances to these industrial operations would be through here, here, and here. The streets here would be closed so that that traffic cannot go into the neighborhood. And there would also be a gate at Avenue B that would prevent traffic from going into the neighborhood, which is one of the primary issues of residents currently. So again, that does speak a bit to traffic congestion here and how the proposed plan would address that.
Mr. Wiley?
Got a quick question. For something of this size, that's going to be here, I'm looking at the part to where there's going to be a lot of workers here, and I'm assuming that the top part up here, we're at 22nd Court, between those 2 buildings there, is that where the parking is going to be at for the entire landscape? Would that be the parking for the entire area? Or where would they park at
The staff's understanding is the majority of parking is taking place here,
Parking garage.
but I would also have to defer to the applicant on what exactly would take place in this paved area here. So if the applicant can please note to make sure that is clarified during your presentation.
Mr. Sermons, good point Mr. Wiley made. In terms of the parking, does the applicant see that it is a closed loop, that they would require their employees to park in their designated
Right.
campus area? Not that this has anything to do with the applicant, but in the past, when we've had construction, if you will, in that area, and they should have parked where the applicant or where the business was housing their business, those individuals traversed to the empty lots that were on the opposite side of the street in Riviera Beach. So if the applicant could address how they're going to handle
Right.
to make sure that their guests, their workers, their visitors, everyone would be confined with enough parking inside of their campus, and how they would communicate, this is where it has to be. We don't want to see anybody's vehicle get towed because, that kind of thing. So if they could address that when they get up.
Is that question understood by the applicant to be addressed? Okay. So of the multiple community conversations that staff has had, based on the phone calls and emails that we've received, and based on the responses to community meetings provided by the applicant, these are the primary concerns that staff has observed from the community. First, traffic and noise. Staff does believe that the site plan as laid out would reduce the majority of the traffic that has become an issue for the neighborhood. Unfortunately, this neighborhood is next to industrial areas that are supported and recognized by the city's comp plan and land development codes. One of the priority areas for the city is to develop its working waterfront for marine industries. And this particular neighborhood is right next to that area. So a significant issue for the community members has been the traffic associated with those businesses going into their neighborhood. And for that reason, extensive conversations took place about how to prevent that commercial traffic from going into the neighborhood. So staff does believe that this site plan addresses that in a significant way. And again, with the buffer area along 22nd Court and the wall and landscaping along it, we do believe the noise would also be reduced along with the traffic. As far as drainage, this site has been reviewed by the city engineer. He has approved it and is satisfied with what they have provided in the way of drainage, with the stipulation that before they get any permits, they must finalize their permit with South Florida Water Management District. With that, the drainage requirements either have or will be satisfied at the permit stage. Open space, landscaping, and beautification was also a primary concern of residents. We have made sure that the areas on the edge of this property facing the residential area, as well as what will be facing Broadway, whether it be the first phase or in latter phases of full build out, have a heavy landscaping and are visually appealing to the community. There was a request for a reduction in landscaping, and staff will speak to our analysis of that. But what you see in the site plan before you for consideration today ensures that on the areas on the outside of this campus facing the residential area and facing Broadway, that there's heavy landscaping and that it is visually appealing. Sidewalk improvements, again, with the reconstruction of 22nd Court, it was important to residents to have sidewalks. I don't believe there are any in the neighborhood right now, and it is a active community where residents are out and moving around. And again, staff has been there on multiple occasions to observe it. And with the reconstruction of 22nd Court, at least one sidewalk would be included on one side of the street to help effectuate the pedestrian environment of the community.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Shepherd?
let me clear something up. The only sidewalks is where I stay at on 23rd Street. So there is a sidewalk
Okay.
on 23rd, the only sidewalk in that area.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Yes, not all the way, but I'm saying where I'm at up to, what is it, B Avenue? There's, and then it stops. So I guess I have to ask the applicant, who is going to, are you going to bail out those sidewalks? Because I see the people walking their dogs and they have to walk into the street. That's my one complaint. Number two, let me go back to the drainage. When it rains over there, there's flooding. And my question is, who's going to address that issue with the drainage system? At first, I didn't know that there was a drainage system going on there, but I was going out to go to Publix and I seen the barricades from the police. So I heavily think that you should really give us an opportunity to say, who's going to do the drainage? Or is there going to be drainage? Because right now, people have to put sandbags there to keep the water from coming into their driveway, into their house. That's one of the concerns I heard them talk about in the meeting. So I just want to really clear that up and make sure it's addressed by the applicant.
Understood.
Or you, the city.
Understood, and we have had conversations regarding this with the applicant as well. For this particular site plan, the city is somewhat limited into their scope of work. We have ensured that their project and the development of their project in the regulations require that this development does not create any drainage issues. So any rainwater collected by impervious surfaces on their site have to be collected and safely discharged without flooding and affecting anyone near them. And those are the minimum development standards. And again, with our city engineer reviewing this and working with the applicant, he is satisfied that this project will not make flooding any worse. But the city, beyond that, the city is aware of, on the streets north of this, that there are some drainage issues that need to be addressed. And with the impact fees collected from this, the city has discussed making sure those fees are reinvested into that area. Because of course, with the city's capital infrastructure plan, there's just limited money to spread across the city. But in the case of impact fees, ensuring that they go to the area where they were collected. So the city is prepared to ensure that we reinvest in this neighborhood if this project moves forward, and the fees collected from it could be utilized to the neighborhood to the north where we know there's a drainage issue.
Well, I just hope money is put there to address some of the issues, because once you start building, then you're shifting around in that area, and it's going to come back from 22nd to 23rd, I think, where the main issues, and going out to, is that Lakeshore Drive, I think, flooding over there, and the seawall. When the rain is heavy, that water comes from the seawall and block those people out with the drainage system. So I just ask that you all really think about this. I don't know if the city will be in charge of the drainage area, but it needs to be addressed ASAP. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
Noted.
Mr. Sermons, to add on, Ms. Shepherd, it's the developer who wishes to propose this to the city. So why doesn't the developer pay to fix up the drainage issue? Why does the city have to incur the fees? And second, anything the developer does, is there a way to request a bond in case it goes sideways and the city has to go in there and repair something that they were supposed to handle? Why don't we have them post a bond? I am sure Safe Harbors will be amenable to such a request, because I'm sure the developers will do what they got to do for the sidewalks, the drainage, et cetera. So in other words, they're backing up their proposal. They're coming to us for approvals. So all we're asking in return is, we need you to step up to the plate and fund these drainage issues, landscaping, sidewalk issues. And if you fail to do so, we have a bond that the city will then use to rectify those items. I'm sure we can work on that.
So on that one, I will say that there is an addressing of the drainage through the reconstruction of East 22nd Court. They are reconstructing it with curb and gutter in its own drainage system to move that water safely and quickly out of the area. So as a part of reconstructing that street, they are making improvements to the drainage of the area. When any right-of-way permits are requested from the city, the contractor is required to have bonds on file with the city so that if anything is damaged in the right-of-way or there's issues with the completion of work, that the city can ensure that it gets done. So the city does already have procedures in place to make sure that when work is being done in our right-of-ways, that it gets done correctly.
Okay, I just want to make sure any drainage issues because of this development doesn't fall back on the city.
Right. Understood.
Right.
Understood.
So however you want to figure it out, however you want to work it with our attorneys and developers, I want nothing to come back to the city. I don't need to dig into the city coffers for a major development like this. I am sure they'll be more than willing to address the issues that have been raised, especially the drainage. We don't need no more flooding. If they want to develop the area, I am sure they're going to be willing to do what it takes. So I will leave that up to your shop to make sure we have something to back up.
Understood. And
Instead of
I have
city
noted
treasury.
that. I have noted that. Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Continue, please.
Roads as to whether speed bumps are appropriate. So that's something that could be considered later. I will say that public safety, especially the fire department, they are opposed to speed bumps because it does affect their response times. So Public Works and fire are careful that they are not too reactive when speed bumps are requested because the issue of public safety is a factor there. But at this time, there are no proposed speed bumps. And the traffic turnarounds are not within the scope of the right-of-ways at this time. But the staff does understand and acknowledge that those were concerns mentioned by the public. And then finally, there has been multiple comments regarding air quality. So the city itself does not have its own air quality monitoring division because it is a very complex thing to do, but the state does regulate and provide enforcement with air quality. This developer, this operator, this business would have to have air quality, air permits from the state that they maintain compliance with. And they have provided their existing permits for one of their campuses. And to my understanding, they also have a clean marinas designation at their West Palm Beach site and have committed to ensuring they get that certification at this location as well.
Mr. Chairman, real quick. Clark.
Regarding air quality, I understand what you just said about the city not having the metrics to measure. But this is a huge operation. It's expanding. And there has to be, I think, metrics to share with the community to give them a comfort level to understand what is the quality of air that's around them. Most importantly, too, we all know that legislation has been relaxed to a certain extent to accommodate businesses, whether they got their lobbyist stuff there or whatever. Legislation to protect the general public has been relaxed. i.e. just recently what happened with the railroads crashing in Ohio, I believe it is, and that was due to regulations being relaxed. I think it would be fair if the applicant could address the metrics, because the quality of air is relative, but the net is the community has to be comfortable with those measurements, with those metrics, if the city doesn't have the capability of providing that information. And my last question is, if the applicant could be so kind to share, because I'm not in the marine industry, I'm in the air cargo shipping business, but could they address how they handle chemical spills and any potential runoff that happens within their campus?
All right, I have noted both of those as questions for the applicant to make sure that they address during their presentation, as well as the earlier ones. But as it relates to air quality, it is a complex issue with having a baseline of the air quality and using that to determine if there are higher levels of contaminants in the air, and having stationary locations to measure it on a regular versus a person coming and doing it with the appropriate devices. So it is a considerable operation in doing so. So the applicant would need to speak to what they're willing to do to address that and provide confidence to this board and the community that the air quality around their operations is safe. But again, I will make sure they are aware of that to address to this body.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Shepherd.
the air quality. I don't even know how to address it, but over in that area, I know on 23rd, they have a boat yard where I think they're working on the boats, and the chemicals are spilling into our little area. I think I was the third one that had to go to the hospital because I couldn't breathe. And I know they have to clean the ships, I understand. But I need to know or help us understand what chemicals are being used, because it's in the air in that area. They're expanding, and with them expanding, cleaning the boats or repairing them or whatever, there's no guarantee that we're not going to suffer, because right now we are suffering. So I need to have someone clear that up, how we're going to navigate whatever is in the air, whatever chemical is in the air. So I just wanted to address that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Not only air quality, but all these chemicals that they use with the runoff, I want to make sure that it doesn't end up either in our water table or in our sewer system. So we hopefully the developer will address how they handle that portion of their business.
And part of what staff has required as through the review process that they include drainage or baffle boxes, I believe is the terminology for them, to collect and address the quality of that stormwater when it drains from the site. So that has been involved in the conversations that staff has had with them, and making sure that any stormwater that runs off of this site is has been treated before it goes into the drainage systems and in the Lake Worth Lagoon.
Okay, then who from the city or staff would do those spontaneous checks to make sure they're complying with the rules and regulations that we set forth? Who does that?
So the Public Works Department handles the drainage systems of the city. I am not aware of how frequently they check quality of stormwater, but that is something that I can inquire about.
Yes, with Mr. Johnson, please make sure we add that, because we definitely have to do spot check of the quality of what's getting dumped into the drainage system, if anything.
Understood.
Thank you, sir. Continue, please.
Chair?
Yes, please.
My question is to staff. Outside of the applicant, in terms of our infrastructure, how do we stand and how do we fare outside of their boundaries? How do we fare with, the adjacent neighborhood, cast iron pipes there, businesses moving past where the applicant is our infrastructure in place? Because we, as a city, have challenges. And I just wanted to know where the residents are, what kind of infrastructure has taken place in terms of PVC piping or still cast iron piping, for example?
I'm not aware of the material of the pipes there. I believe, depending on the type of pipe, we could probably look to our utility special district or public works to see what they have in their records for what's in those pipes, but I can't answer that question at the moment.
Whether it's this applicant or another applicant, do we evaluate where we are in terms of infrastructure that surrounds businesses? Because they have to be successful, but if our infrastructure is poor, and it just seems like and what I'm saying is the runoff can get into the neighborhood. And I'm using the example of me having cast iron pipes in my home, and the chemicals and stuff were just permeating the cast iron pipes. And unfortunately, it eroded them, and the chemicals kind of seeped into my home. That's the only reason that I'm asking, is that we have a problem, and I just got repercussions from the fact that we weren't tight on our end.
I am aware of a recent federal mandate that's affected the Riviera Beach Utility Special District, whereas they are required to take an inventory of the material of all the pipes in the city to make sure none of them are constructed of materials that could be hazardous, such as lead. And that is something that they have to get done within a certain time period. So they've already contacted my department about getting documents and as-built of our infrastructure lines to see what those materials are, because they are required to update and take out and replace any that are not of approved materials. So I can say, at least to that point, there are efforts that are already underway by our utility district that are federally mandated, which will require them to work quickly to address that.
Thanks, that's all the questions I have for you.
Mr. Sermons, continue, please.
So the staff recommendations. Staff, although there are some questions tonight and we could not answer all of those, and I just received word from staff and our outside legal that as it refers to the PCN number, I don't believe there was a resolution to that at the moment, so that may not be able to be resolved tonight. So it may be appropriate to table this item for a vote until that is rectified, which would give us time to address that and some other things. And again, the PCNs are an important aspect of the project. They've identified the boundaries, but from what I've been told in the research they just did in the hallway, they haven't gotten that exacted. So it will probably require some additional research. I can give you the remainder of the staff recommendation and then allow the applicant to still give their presentation and address the various questions that you've had for them, but it doesn't appear that we would have an answer to that PCN number question tonight. And without that, I don't know if the board will have enough confidence to make a recommendation tonight.
Okay, so that's what we'll do then. You already went through A through F on the agenda, am I correct? So what we'll do is we'll hear from the developers, we'll hear from the public, and we'll table it until the next meeting. So we make sure we have dot our I's, cross our T's, and then it'll give the developers some time to address our concerns. and work it into, with the city's concurrence, where we can work that into their amendment, plus we can hear the publics as well, so that we can all work together harmoniously and achieve the same goals?
That sounds fair, and it sounds like a plan for the balance of this evening.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and with that, I will conclude the staff presentation and make way for the applicant.
When you take the dais, sir, please identify yourself and how you're tied into the development.
He's taller than I am. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Richard Pinsky with the Ackerman Law Firm on behalf of the applicant Safe Harbor. And I first want to apologize. We were trying to pay close attention, but we did have an issue with the verification of the PCN numbers that were submitted. So usually I don't jump up like a jack-in-the-box 20 times when you all are speaking. So I apologize, but the city's unable to, the staff's unable to verify the PCN numbers, understandably. And so that's why we're requesting that we postpone for tonight. I'm
Mr.
happy
Chair.
to go through the presentation if you want to do that.
Yes, sir, please go to the presentation.
Okay.
And
All right,
then we
very
can
good.
see, you've already heard some of our requests here. You're going to probably hear some
Yep.
more. When you stepped out, you probably missed it, or your team members got a hold of it.
I think I got it.
So we can go on.
Got it.
Mr. Chair.
So I want to, pardon me?
Mr. Chair, for the PCN issue, I just need to clarify, when that information comes in, the applicant is required to provide an affidavit of the properties and that they are the owners of those. Staff relies on that notarized affidavit that what's in there is true and correct. So the discrepancies, we will work with the applicant to make sure it's clear, but we also want to make sure it's clear who the burden and the onus is on to provide that correct information before we go on, just to have that on the record.
Correct, but your team also has a way of verifying that information, correct, with the county?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Pinsky, all yours.
Yeah, I want to get back to the beginning, which I'm not quite sure how I do. I was looking for the red pointer is what I was looking for. So in the meantime, what I'd like to do is, and then how do I get to the full screen? Oh, perfect. So first I want to introduce the team. First of all, not here tonight is our COO, Tim Sargent. And he is actually in South Carolina right now, getting on a plane to come back. He's Safe Harbor is purchasing another facility up in South Carolina, or else he would be here. So I apologize on his behalf. We do have with us Eric Haruska, if you don't mind standing up and waving. And Eric is the Chief Operating Officer for the facility here in Riviera Beach, Safe Harbor, Rybovich Riviera Beach. Also Leah Gaines, if you don't mind standing up. Leah heads up our West Palm Beach and Riviera Beach community outreach for the last several months. Also Dwight Stevenson. And Dwight is one of our two lead joint venture contractors for the project. And in a minute, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Spruce and Liam Sargent, who'll be actually making the technical presentation portion of it. So the purpose of why we're here tonight, although it is being postponed, surrounds the business decision by Safe Harbor to relocate their existing footprint in West Palm Beach to Riviera Beach. So first, let me say that the operation in Riviera Beach is not a new business. This is an existing business that's currently happening in your city. The decision to move into Riviera Beach is based on the decision to close down West Palm Beach because, quite frankly, in the future, it's not going to be large enough. Safe Harbor is not a developer. We're not looking to develop land for housing or warehousing or anything else. We're boatyard owners and operators, and we're in the business of repairing boats. That's our business. I do want to take another moment of personal privilege and thank Clarence Sermons and his staff, because what Clarence, Mr. Sermons, was faced with was having to work within your code of working waterfront, which perhaps is not as comprehensive as it should be, and making it work in the areas of how you approve a new business to expand to the degree we are doing it. So Mr. Sermons had some serious and significant challenges before he could bring the item before you of how we marry what your existing code is with a working waterfront project. So kudos to him. It was not an easy task, and it's been a long journey to get us where we are right now. So why Riviera Beach? Well, this cover slide really tells the story. We could have put a picture here of pretty marina with boats, but that's a travel lift. And our friends here from Viking tonight know what that is and what that's all about. That signifies that this is a working waterfront marina. We do work on boats. Riviera Beach is unique. Once Safe Harbor moves out of West Palm Beach, Riviera Beach is going to be the last working waterfront between Stewart and Fort Lauderdale. In fact, Fort Lauderdale's working waterfront is up the New River. It's not on the intercoastal, and similarly with Martin County. So what you have here is very unique. To the south of us, West Palm Beach, all the way down to Miami, it's all residential or condos along the water. To the north, the very same, all residential and condos. The 1.2 miles from the southern boundary of Riviera Beach to 22nd Court is the last working waterfront in Southeast Florida. And you'll be commended for that, and you are attracting businesses because of that reason. So now you know why we're here. So let's take a few minutes, and I want to introduce you to Safe Harbor itself. So we are the largest in the country of marina owner and operators. We have 135. This was 134 as of 10 o'clock this morning, and with South Carolina, we're now at 135. We're in 24 states in Puerto Rico, and most recently, with the first acquisition of Rybovich, we now have 10 super yacht facilities. And those super yacht facilities are along the east coast of the United States. And you can see West Palm Beach and Riviera Beach, both in Florida, and soon West Palm Beach will be going away. So in brief history, I know many of you are familiar with Rybovich, but I want to underscore a couple of points. In 2005, Rybovich in West Palm Beach was purchased for the purpose of creating the only super yacht repair facility on the east coast of the United States of that size. It worked because the growth through offering those specialized super yacht repair and furbishing services began attracting mega yachts throughout the world. As a reliable and five-star destination for yachts traveling between Europe and the Caribbean. By 2015, it was evident that West Palm Beach facility was not going to be large enough to accommodate the growth and the number of vessels that were needing dry docking. So Rybovich began assembling parcels for moving the entire facility to Riviera Beach. Safe Harbor Marinas purchased Rybovich on December 31st, 2021, for the purpose of creating an international super yacht repair division. That was going to be the flagship, and it has proven to be so. Another milestone was reached in 2021. Rybovich became the #1 super yacht repair facility in the world. We've surpassed Barcelona. We've surpassed Monaco. This is a destination now from all over the world. Building upon the success of the Rybovich brand, Safe Harbor announced the Riviera Beach facility would also be called the Safe Harbor Rybovich and serve as the international headquarters of their new super yacht repair division, which now totals 10 different facilities. In February of 2022, a little over a year ago, Safe Harbor Rybovich met with the City of Riviera Beach staff, which included Mr. Sermons, to present the plan to move out of West Palm Beach and into Riviera Beach. The challenge was you have two different constituencies, and I don't envy your position of where you are, and I certainly am not going to envy the city council should we get to that place. Because on the one hand, you have a constituency of the neighborhood immediately to the north. And on the other hand, you have a constituency of most of the folks that live west of Broadway. Those two competing interests, although they are conflated in the desire to have Riviera Beach succeed. Residential neighborhood is one concern, but on the west side of Broadway and for the rest of the city, jobs and economic development is the other concern. So how do you make those two things work for the betterment of the neighborhood as well as for the city? We think we've struck a balance, and I'm going to show you why I believe so. So in 2005, and I don't know if we have to dim the lights again, maybe this is a little difficult to see. But in 2005, this is what the West Palm Beach yard looked like. And you can see, I don't have the red, is this the red pointer too, or no? Is that it? Nope. Okay, well, if it is, I don't know how to use it. I apologize. There it is. Go. So this is Flagler, and here is the edge of the property line, and here's the edge of the property line here. By 2022, this is what the facility looks like. As you can see, we have Flagler Development went in here, Flagler Landing rather, and the school, and you can see these are all neighborhoods. These neighborhoods reside as our neighbor in fact, the restaurant that we have on property, residents, as well as the public. The coalition, the North End Coalition of Neighborhoods strongly supports Rybovich. We work with the neighborhoods on a number of projects throughout the year, and they endorse what we are doing, although they're not happy to necessarily see us leave.
So I have just a question.
Sure.
First, I heard fabulous things about your restaurant, and I'm looking to attend it and dine there. The picture that you're showing, those two towers that have been built.
Right here,
Are they there?
right there,
Those two giant 1.7 million condos are.
right there, right with the red, right there.
Thank you.
Yep. I also want to show you a picture of the Lauderdale Marine Center that Safe Harbor purchased and has been working on. This is, will end up being a little bit larger than the facility in Riviera Beach once completed. So the Riviera Beach facility would be about like this size footprint. And so they've added this and they have this. But here, these are all neighborhoods. Here, these are all neighborhoods. And here, these are all neighborhoods. This is walled off completely, the same way we're suggesting on 22nd Court, as is the West Palm Beach facility on Flagler. Matter of fact, people drive down Flagler, they don't even know there's a super yacht repair facility behind the landscaping and wall. So I'm showing you this because I want you to understand that when you're thinking about the competing interests of the city for economic development and jobs, and at the same time wanting to restore and protect a neighborhood, I want you to understand that we are sensitive to that. We know what neighborhoods need and what they want for the quality of life. Here's another picture of the Lauderdale Marine Center, just to get you a better feel of we are surrounded by neighborhoods. So here's Riviera Beach, and when Safe Harbor, when Rybovich actually, and now Safe Harbor began assembling parcels. So this is Avenue B, and this is 22nd Court. And so this used to be the size of the yard, and what's been happening is we've been assembling parcels all along the way, and now we own that footprint. And this is what it looks like today. You saw some future pictures, and you're going to see some more in a minute. And again, this is 22nd Court. So right now, 22nd Court is open to the public, as is 22nd, as is 21st. So what you have going on right now is people driving through, going out different ways, people coming through. You have workers going out, driving through the neighborhoods. You have just a interchange of play that has an adverse impact on the neighborhood. So what is being proposed, that this would be the new northern border of Riviera Beach's working waterfront. This would be a wall, trees, heavy landscaping, no more flooding, no more drainage, and depending what the neighbors want, there's be no more access to the boat club here. Everything would be within the campus. So once this is closed off, this neighborhood will be restored. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to you right now. I'm going to come back and talk about the economic development numbers of what it means to Riviera Beach, and some of the questions that the commissioners had will be addressed by Kimberly Horn. I'm going to address some when I come back after they're completed with theirs. But all of the questions that you raised are all great questions, and look forward to getting you the answers that I'm sure you'll be satisfied with. So with that, I want to introduce Liam Sargent, no relation to Tim Sargent, from Kimberly Horn. This advances. And that's the red.
For the record, Liam Sargent with Kimley Horn and Associates, here on behalf of Safe Harbor Marinas. With me today, also for the record, is Michael Spruce, engineer of record for the project, as well as Adam Kerr, traffic engineer of record for the project. Want to start off again thanking the board for being here, especially staff and the public for showing up today. As Richard noted, Kimley Horn did a majority of the landscaping, civil engineering, and planning associated with this, but we do have Song and Associates, who's a well-renowned architect from the local area, assisting us with the architectural design of the campus. You're probably going to see a number of things that we've been through. I tip my hat to Clarence. He made an excellent presentation. I just want to capitalize again on the number of requests that we are going forward with. That's 6 total requests, 3 of which have a staff recommendation of approval, and 3 of which have a staff recommendation of approval with conditions. As you're aware, this project is located in the beautiful city of Riviera Beach, bounded generally by the port to the south and Blue Heron Bridge to the north, more specifically located bounding Jim Berry Harbor Park to the south and 22nd Court to the north, with Broadway to the west and the Intercoastal and Viking facilities to the east. Right now, I'll be showing a number of exhibits that go in a sequential order of impact to the project. The first one we feel most significant, the land use amendment, was a discussion and working amendment that we had done with staff, which capitalized on the working waterfront that Riviera Beach has as a land use that we wanted to incorporate into our project. And you'll see here, this is how it exists today. Broadway to about halfway through the site right now is downtown mixed use with partially single family to the north. And what we're proposing is to encompass the downtown mixed use as working waterfront, as that fits the use that is what the use that we are proposing in there, so the marine repair.
Can we hold off on any public comment until they finish?
Oh, yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Why don't we let them finish first, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay. So as you can see, a difference here between what is not go. There we go. Downtown mixed use to working waterfront, and specific steps were taken, with the recommendation of staff to maintain, a strip of downtown mixed use in front of the project that we're proposing. And the reason for that is quite simple. It's good planning, and it's the intent of the city of Riviera Beach to have that area be, for the future, developed as their downtown. And we respect that, and we want to continue that. So you can see here, we have part of our site is downtown mixed use, which allows for specific zoning districts that encourage commercial and retail uses, which is what ideally is the goal of the city through its comprehensive plan. And that translates directly into rezoning. So if the future land use is what the ideal city looks like in 20 plus years, the zoning district is what we're looking at as current today. And you'll see that it's a majority of downtown core split with downtown marine. And you'll see that there's a downtown residential section that sticks out sort of like a sore thumb. We own the property within that downtown residential. And the idea is to just complete that district similar to how the future land use is completed from the previous slide. The zoning text amendment, I know there's a lot on there. We tried to give you a short summary for it. The fee, it allows developers to propose a fee in lieu of that is approved by staff for specific projects within your working waterfront. It is subject to city council approval. It is a request of the minimum reduction feasible on site, and it is a cost calculated by using the existing City of Riviera Beach code. We take to the specific tree what we are missing, and we calculate a cost for that. And it's there to reflect the impervious nature of marinas. We obviously, with the value of the yachts within the facility and the forms of pavement required to transport these heavy boats, we can't realistically place landscape islands or trees within our facility. So we've concentrated most of that on the outside. Following in suit, we have the abandonment here. We feel that it's best highlighted by what the proposed plan is going to look like. You can see that Avenue B right there and Avenue C, our north to south streets, are being abandoned up to 22nd Court from their existing abandonments from several years back. And 21st Street and 22nd Street finish at the properties here, and the Avenue D right away that we're proposing to give the city in form of a tract for a cut through.
Well, since we're going to be tabling this for our next meeting, that is, you just gave us an oversight, am I correct? An overview of the plans? Is there anything else you need to go into detail? Because you're going to be doing the same thing at the next meeting, because there's a lot of going back and forth between the city, what we discussed with the developer, and then everything's going to come back to us again.
Not, I mean, if
I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
we're going to be redoing everything all over again in a month's time or whenever it's set for the agenda again.
I mean, realistically, it's just a review of what we've gone through with our perspective on it. So if it's something that we're going to have this discussion again, then I'm inclined.
All right, I know this is not going to be, go, Mr. Sapinski.
Okay. This is the easiest way to show where we're providing a majority of the parking on site. You see we have our parking garage building located here with access from 22nd Street. And then we'll have several spaces up here, as well as roughly 35 parking spaces to the rear of these office buildings as well. And we have met those parking requirements per code that are listed within the site plan. And that's addressed to address specifically the comment regarding the parking.
That location there, that little, it's kind of hard to describe on the north end, go a little bit to the right, more to the right, that little box over there. Is that a guard shack?
Yeah, so the idea here is that, you know, we're channeling most of our traffic through 22nd Street. The guard shack is going to have 2 lanes. It's going to have an automatic entry gate and a check-in gate. And the reason to have that square behind the guard shack is so that our employees can turn anyone around if necessary.
All right.
Chair, is it fine to ask a question?
Sorry?
Is it fine to ask a question?
You can ask a question, that is correct.
I don't know if you need to answer it at this meeting or the next time you come up, but the 2 buildings there, I really want to get understanding because the community was told, because I asked that specific question, about what sort of non-retail businesses would be there. And let's hypothetically say that it is non-marine-based businesses. And you got the parking right there. I don't understand if it happens to be non-marine-based businesses that you are leasing out to. That's what I was told at the last meeting. How would those customers come into this facility? How late are these businesses going to be open if it happens to be non-marine-based businesses? So I'm really confused as to what was told to the community over a month ago and what's being told tonight.
Just point out the campus parking, and then where the parking is.
I think Mr. Penske's going to take a stab at answering that question for you right now. I think we'd rather answer that now than postpone it, just so we can get an answer out in there. But I will say for a majority of the parking on site, we're going to have this parking structure, and that's primarily going to be used by employees and any individuals with specific business on site. This parking here behind buildings 1 and 2 is ADA accessible parking that provides access to both these buildings for any future potential non-marine retail. And specifically, those 2 buildings are primarily going to be contractor shops and office. But we are considering and have the ability, because of the zoning district, to do retail within here. And we've thought ahead with our planning of this and made it accessible from the rear. So if you'd like to park and access off 20th Street, you can come in here and park there. And there'll be normal 9 to 5 business hours. I wouldn't expect anything more than that.
Just a little housekeeping. I've conferred with our counsel, who will provide his information for the record. Since we're going to be tabling this, and there's some items that our city has to address with the developers, we're going to be tabling this until the next meeting. At that meeting, where we'll be voting on this matter, is when we will have public comments. We have 3 hours of public comment. I will refer to our attorney, and when we vote on this, we will take public comment on the finalized version of this project.
Point.
So
Can we have some order? Can we have order?
Can I, Mr. Chairman,
Do we need to have order? Sir, you're out of order.
Oh, my God.
Come on, that's not necessary.
We're tabling this until the next meeting, and then you'll have a right at the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a suggestion?
Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
That's not
If
necessary.
can we hold on? Can we listen?
that's why we suggested earlier about pulling it. We're happy.
Sir, you're out of order. Can you please remove
Wait,
this gentleman from the meeting?
point of order, Miss.
Please remove him. Please remove him from the meeting.
Stealing people's property and everything. We'll be back.
Thank you.
We're happy to
Point of-
stay as long tonight, informally, once you recess or adjourn. We're happy to stay as long to answer any questions. I don't want folks to show up and not at least get their questions and comments.
The
I'll
problem we have is we're not voting on this matter. It's-
I understand, but I mean, after you adjourn, I'm willing to, out in the hallway, outside, whatever, I don't want people to leave here not thinking that their comments were addressed.
Hold on a minute, please.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Are we obligated to just take your word? Shouldn't we be voting, all of us making this decision of whether the public can speak or not?
If I may, Miss-
I think it's only fair, Mr. Chair, and I don't know who said that, but these people cannot speak.
Yeah, let me.
They come here to speak. This is the fourth meeting I've been to, and they have had the opportunity to speak. Even, excuse me, sir, I'm talking. In a midst like this, Mr. Chair, I think we should vote on whether we should allow these people to speak. Okay, they deserve to speak. They come here to speak.
After conferring with Mr. Sermons, we can't set a limit of 2 minutes per speaker because they're going to redo this meeting again in a month.
I understand, Mr. Fernandez, and I thank you for that. And I said again,
As a
oh,
here, 2 minutes.
over and over, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, or what? They're here to speak. Let them speak. The next meeting, let them come back again and speak, but they are entitled
Okay.
to give their opinion. And I'm tired of this, that we settle these people and say, well, okay, you come, you sit here till 12 o'clock at night and you can't speak. Now, this is just impossible to sit here. Now you got our
Ms.
police,
Shepherd.
excuse me.
Ms. Shepherd.
Now
I
you,
agree with
excuse me, a point of order.
I agree with
You have our police coming in here to stop. This should not be chaos in here. Look at our police officers. This is horrible. Over a minute or two to let these people talk.
Chair, so shall we take a vote on the 2 minutes? Should the attorney, do we take a
Yeah.
vote on
Yeah.
this?
Mr. Chairman,
Take a vote.
I
Mr.
agree
Chairman.
on 2 minutes. After conferring with Mr. Sermons, I agree on 2 minutes for the people that are here. But again, just be realized, we're not voting on this matter tonight. They're going to re-present it. And if you would like to come back again, you can do so. So can we vote on 2 minutes per speaker? Do I have a?
So moved.
So moved.
Chair, I
Ms.
make a,
Ms. Sherry, roll call for the 2 minutes, please.
Ms. Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. James Gallen. Mr. William Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Evelyn Harris Clark.
yes.
Ms. Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Russell Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
You have a quorum, sir.
Can you read out the comment card,
Motion
please?
passed.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Who has the comment card so we can call them up?
Mr. Peter Huda.
Please identify yourself when you come up to the podium so we know who you're dealing with and how you are impacted by this.
Certainly, sir. My name is Peter Ruda. I live at 2305 Lakeshore Drive. I'm impacted by it every day. People coming around my curb. I live on the corner house. People drive over my property constantly. It's starts about 6 o'clock in the morning, doesn't stop most of the day. The council people, everyone's been very nice, coming out, looking, doing the research. I appreciate everyone from the building department and council people taking special time to come and visit the neighborhood. 20th Street, as it was spoken, is shut down. There's a traffic light there. The road was abandoned, but there is no access to Safe Harbor Rivovich through 20th Street. The proposal for D Street to give us a little piece of strip behind D Street with parking is not sufficient. It's rather dangerous still, because the amount of employees that Rivovich, just from the workers, is going to be significant. In addition to that, the storefront that is proposed, it's beautiful, but it's going to be entirely for their employees to open up their workshops and stuff to work on the mega yachts. So I think we need to consider usage as to what truly is being used there. And then, of course, when the project's being done, how it's going to impact the employees, because they're not going to shut down the boat marina. They can't shut them down. Where are the employees going to park? That's a major amount of concrete, a major amount of construction being put in. They're going to work on the mega yachts first, which is the biggest part of the project, and it's going to impact the entire area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for coming up. Mr. Sermons, can you do me a favor? Can you have your team members take notes
Yes.
of the issues here? Because we need you to address this with Safe Harbor. So when we come back the next meeting, we can address the issues that were raised during this meeting and what the resolutions were.
Absolutely, will do.
And
Thank you.
Chair, may I add a caveat to what you just said, Mr. Sermons? Could you also have a count and add this to the community outreach, the numbers that you showed before?
Yes.
Take account of how many people were here, so that in future discussions, if residents say they weren't communicated to, at least we can say here, X amount of people also should be added into those numbers.
Will do. Understood.
Please call out the next one.
Okay, we have Kim Sesser. Then we have Fane Lozman. And then Julie Logner. Ms. Sesser?
It would be great
Oh, Ms.
if,
Losser, ma'am, was your name called out?
it would be great, sure, Chair, it would be great if their name is called, if they would stand in line to save us some time. So if your name has already been called, it would be great if you can already get up and stand in line and move to the podium.
Did everybody hear the names that were called out?
Go ahead, Sam, repeat them.
Ms.
Ma'am, Ms. Chair, can you repeat the
Julie
name?
Logner. Okay. Kim Sesser. And then we have Barney Lawson.
Chair, quick question for, I'm not sure who's reading the comment cards. The first person that already left, did she leave a comment to be read into the record on her card?
She do not support this item.
All right, thank you.
Julie, yes.
Hi, my name is Julie Logston, and I own property over on 25th Street. Just a couple of concerns related to item A, the traffic congestion for the neighborhood. Today, and it happened
Could
to
you
me
speak into the mic, ma'am?
tonight, as I was coming over the bridge to turn left, the whole street between the Publix and Broadway were blocked off. There were fire engines and emergency vehicles, and everybody who wanted to go south had to go through the neighborhood. And there was a significant amount of traffic going through. down 24th, down 23rd, and the only place that you can go to turn to go south is to go down there on 22nd, whatever it is. And I believe that with the proposal, we're now going to have to go down further, come through, compete with the 500 cars coming out of the 500-plus parking lot and whatever other vehicles are parked along there to get out. So if we're going to do that, I think the city should put another road that you can go left, either on 22nd or 23rd, because we should not have to go through all of this commercial, property in order to get out of a residential area. The second thing related to C, 25th Street is a disaster on the end. When you go from Lake Shore towards the water, when it rains, the cars are ruined with the salt water. The flooding is so bad and it hasn't been addressed in years. And if this project is going to contribute to the flooding issues, we don't need it. We need a plan to offset that, and whatever fees are going or impact fees, we need a commitment in writing that that money is going to the streets to fix these flooding issues.
Right.
The other thing I will say is that when I want to put a pool in my backyard, I have to meet requirements for a certain percentage to be drainable land and not concrete. And I didn't get an option where I could pay off the city to not do that. Apparently, that's what we're discussing here, where you can pay a fine instead of meeting the requirement. And
Thank you. Your
this
time- your
gentleman
time.
here said that they were going to,
Ma'am, your time. We do have.
Mayor, can you just finish that one sentence?
I'd just like to know what percentage they are going to, because you talked about doing, and I like the landscaping, I think that's all going to be beautiful, but what percentage are you actually going to have that's not concrete?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Now, before we continue, we did address the drainage issue with Mr. Sermons to address with the developers. They are taking notes. He's typing away, Mr. Sargent, on his laptop there. So we want to make sure that all these questions that were posed tonight will be addressed on the night that we vote on this matter. I think we made ourselves perfectly clear. No, we don't have a date. Mr. Sermons will have to set it. Yes, sir, please.
Fane Lozman, 5101 North Ocean Drive, Singer Island. We're sitting in this building today, and it's not a boat yard, but it could have been. Emma Bates, myself, Andrew Bird in 2010, we pushed through a referendum to preclude this place from being taken over by Rybovich and Viking. They owned property up on 19th and 20th Street there. And I remember before Emma Bates passed away, we said, what can we do to keep this recreational? We said, let them go up to the working waterfront up there, buy all that property and put their boat yard there. And they did that. They did exactly what the people wanted, was to keep this a public recreational facility. So I support it going up there because that was part of the deal. To keep this public, they had to build up there. Now, all those homes, let's go back to 2006. I fought the battle with Miss Merchant, her son is here, along with Institute for Justice Pacific Legal Foundation, that the city was going to give, I don't know how many square miles, 2,200 homes and businesses to Viking Yachts via eminent domain for a $2.4 billion project. We killed that project. That was going to give away this marina the first time. And then the second time was to be a shipyard. So the city took money from the county. They took $5 million of the $50 million working waterfront bond. And they said, we're going to put the working waterfront up along this corridor. And they were happy with the agreement for Rybovich to build a facility there. That was an agreement among all the people that wanted to keep this a public facility. So I support the project. I know Emma Bates supported it. I know Andrew Bird did. I think the project makes the best of a bad situation because they already have an existing boat yard. I think it's walled off. I think the access will come through Broadway. I support it. It's what we agreed to. And they've been good neighbors so far, and I think they'll continue to be in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Barney Lawson. Bill Julius. Nora Mahoney? Juliet, yes. Nora?
Yeah, good
Manny?
evening.
Xavier?
Can you speak louder, Jerry? They can't hear you.
Greg Maury? Nathan Mason? Nathan? Okay.
Go ahead, sir. Please identify yourself and.
Yes, I live at 248 East 24th Street. And could you bring up page 24 of the presentation from the city?
Mr. Sermons? We don't have,
Not at this.
No?
not at this time, no.
Well, as was stated before, they're going to cut in Avenue D, and it's going to be a very short run from Avenue D to Broadway. You got Boathouse Marina always bringing their boats through our neighborhood, which is fine. They're good neighbors. And they're going to be trying to make in these corners, and you're also talking about doing parking on D. I don't know how wide you're thinking about making it, but to get everybody in and out of the marina parking garage and our neighborhood to get south of Broadway, we're going to be sitting through 5, 6, 7 cycles of lights to get out onto Broadway, which is, why should we have to be, pretzel contortionists for them when what they should do is open up to 23rd, 24th, and others through that Broadway corridor that they cordoned off with landscaping so that we can get in and out of our properties. This is ridiculous, what's being proposed. It's abhorrent. So I think city staff needs to look at this, because you got a little sliver of land for all of these properties, and then you got a parking garage and and by the way, where's the parking going to be for all these shops that are going to be on Riviera Beach? Are they going to provide parking behind those buildings? And how are those people going to get out?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sermons, you're taking note, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. Pinsky, your team is also taking notes so we can address.
Good evening. My name is Nora Mahoney. My business is These T-shirts located at 2120 Broadway. And also, I still own my property. One of the PCM parcels that are here that they said it belongs to Safe Harbor. That is a lie. There was a guy who was talking here. I think it's Liam Surgeon. It was notarized incorrect with the parcels because I still own my business and my property. And the parcels numbers was, mine was 0082, that's not supposed to be there. 0061 is Cecil City, and the locksmith on 22nd Street, it was 0180. Well, as a owner of the property, I was supposed to be notified. I did not receive anything from the planning and zoning or the community development. So I am like I'm a ghost disappeared business. I have a business over there, and I heard, I'm sorry, your name, it's the first time that I come in here, about the businesses. I have a business, she have a business, and another person have a business. So when I saw the picture over there where they're gonna build in my property, I said, I didn't approve of that. I still own my property. So that is something that you need to take care of that. Also,
Can you do me one favor when you finish? Can you just stop by Mr. Sermons, give me your PCN numbers, please?
yeah.
Thank you.
And also, you're talking about the drainage. We have a retention pond because we got flooded. I had to call FDOT in order to redo the whole US 1. They were having broken pipes, and you don't have a very good drainage, you're gonna be flooded. And wait until you get a hurricane season. Oh my God, it's gonna be like a swimming pool. The cars are not gonna be able to pass anywhere.
We will make sure we
So
do
we can
that.
address it, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Manny Xavier, 246 East 25th Street, Riviera Beach, Florida. I own a couple other properties as well. I'm going to make this short and sweet until the next meeting. I just want you to be aware of the general area so that next time when you communicate with the developers and your staff, you're pretty in tune with what streets are where and which streets are going to be affected. The streets that are open now are used by businesses and residents. And a lot of those people have been there for years waiting on improvements for this city. Some people have recently bought into those areas and paid a heck of a lot of money for those homes. So just keep in mind, by you abandoning these properties, these streets to them, it's taking from us, okay? So that's where I'm going to leave it right now. Do your homework, do your research, and I'll see you at next meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nathan E. Nason. I'm with the Nason Yeager Law Firm, and I'm here on behalf of the Viking Group. The Viking Group objects to the abandonment of the streets that is being proposed here. And Chair, with your permission, I have a map that I'd like to pass out to you. So I think it illustrates exactly what we're seeing.
Yes, sir, please.
And sir, also provided to staff so they also have it for their record.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Have you relayed your objections to the Safe Harbor and Mr. Sermon's team?
To my knowledge, we have not had communications with Mr. Sermons, but I do know that the principals have discussed at the Viking Group and the Safe Harbor Group about this. So again, I don't know the extent of those, but at any rate, let me, if I can, for the record, I've got a minute left. So our issue is this. We are the green property down here, and we access that property primarily through 21st Street. Customers, suppliers, deliveries, tractor trailers containing boats. We are effectively walled off by this. We would have no legal access. There's a proposal for, I've heard an easement proposal that comes down 22nd Street and takes us onto Avenue B. Issue with that is that we're behind a guard gate, and then we've got to make two acute turns, as you can see down here, and also an acute turn into our facility, which we don't believe is sufficient to accommodate the traffic, the deliveries, both incoming and outgoing, that happen there. So for that reason, we object to the abandonment. I would also point out, well, I see my time's up. We'll talk to you again.
No, let's continue, please.
Okay.
You were talking about the abandonment and how it affects your business.
Yeah. So at any rate, just to finish my thought, in your code, there's a provision that is required to do an abandonment, and it states that the subject right-of-way is an alley, which these are not, or designated as secondary street, which these are not. The staff's response to that was that these particular areas, said portions are no longer part of an interconnected system and only serve one primary owner. And that's simply not true. They serve us, and that's important to us. Now, we're certainly willing to engage in further discussions with the developer, but we wanted to note our objectives for the record. We don't think we've been adequately considered.
Okay, since this is the first time you've expressed this to the city, to our team members, can you please relay your concerns to our team members, but Mr. Sermons?
Yes.
So that way he's aware of it?
We would be pleased to. Thank you.
I would appreciate it. Thank you, sir, for your time. Ms. Sherry?
Greg Morey, Mike Mahoney, Richard Dean,
Good evening. Good evening, Mike Mahoney. My wife spoke a little while ago, owner of D's T-shirts. We've been at our location that we're at, 2120 Broadway. earlier, there was problems with our parcel number being on this project fraudulently presented to a notary public, notary, I'm sorry, from a, let me make sure I'm, from a Tim Sargent back in February 12th, 2022, saying that they owned 3 parcels, and at that time they didn't, they still don't, but they presented this, the Safe Harbor Rybovich Marine expansion rezoning submittal to the city under that assumption that they owned the properties. So Mr. Sermons, the city, Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services, saw this letter. He didn't look at the parcels being incorrect. This is back in 2022. I submitted these letters to him, Mr. Sermons, and the city manager about a month ago. I haven't received anything from them, which isn't too unusual for me. So the problems I have, I did send a letter to the state attorney's office too, and I have a response from her, which I put in the record. So, I mean, I have a lot to say. I'm going to have to come back to the next meeting. The Inspector General, again, weighed in on this, and she said it could be a civil matter or criminal in nature, what was done. So-
Mahoney, you're absolutely right. My property.
Ma'am, you're out of
Okay,
order.
ma'am.
You're out of order.
One, ma'am.
You're
Yes,
out
ma'am.
of order.
Well, I said there were 3 properties.
Okay.
We already got the 3 property numbers. Sermons has it.
The city knows it, but I was looking on that, on the
Okay.
correction. I think they corrected it already because they re-showed the parcel numbers up there. Excuse me. And our parcel number wasn't up there anymore.
Okay.
So I think that's part of the issues that we're having here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Sermons, we should not have a property control number presented to us on a property that the developers or the entity does not own.
Can I just,
Can we rectify that, please?
can I just close on one thing real quick? The problem I have was this new plan was assuming that Rybovich and Safe Harbor owned these properties. So this whole project needs to go back to the drawing board and start over because you have to accommodate our 3 businesses still there. What they're proposing is going to kill whatever little bit we have right now. It's going to kill it. So we need to look at this again.
Mr. Sermons, can you review the comments and the information that this individual sent you regarding their PCN numbers and their concerns? So we can address it before the next meeting and make sure we have the right property control numbers and we can address all concerns that have been relayed here tonight. I know I keep repeating myself, but I want to make sure we're covered because we'll table it at the next meeting if we don't have answers. Is that fair?
Absolutely, it will be addressed before this comes back before you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
sir,
you,
and thank you,
sir.
ma'am, for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, really quick
Yes,
before
Ms.
we
Burgess.
move to the next person. I believe Mr. Sermons, if he could just clarify for the record, you stated when those PCN numbers come back, it's going to be the onus of the applicant to certify that information to the city.
That's correct. With this in any application, the applicant has to tell us what property they own. And in doing so, they have to give us documentation of the PCNs and a sworn affidavit that they are the owner of those properties. And that's what staff uses to process the thousands of applications that we receive on a monthly basis in development services. In this case, obviously, there were some issues with what was provided to staff. So we will ensure that we go an extra step to verify everything on there and cross-reference the parcels included in the site plan, the PCN numbers that they've given us, the PCN numbers that the tax appraiser's office has to make sure that that list is correct when this comes back before you.
So can we have that in our backup, like each PCN with the owner name identified, the property owner? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, please identify yourself.
My name is Richard Dean. Live at 200 East 23rd Street, Riviera Beach since 1977. Would like to thank all of you for reading through. This is only about 100 pages of the 500 pages that was in the packet. So thank you for your time in reviewing all of that. And thanks for the design team and what y'all have done to put Safe Harbor's dreams and wishes on paper. but I hope you realize that these residents that live here also have hopes and dreams. So hopefully we can be a good neighbor like you propose. There was comments made relative to the restaurant, and that is in the packet here. It says support businesses, including restaurants, boat sales, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been given that bill of goods, excuse me, that there are going to be restaurants. Now we hear there's not going to be any. I'd like that clarified. Again, the drainage issue has been mentioned many times. That is also in here. It says that the proposed amendment does not exceed existing capacity for public facilities, including stormwater. So please review that as well. The subject right away in the alley. Again, this gentleman with Viking mentioned that about secondary streets and alleys and primary streets. That needs to be reviewed also. So if we can take a look at that. As far as the abandonment, if they do abandon, from what I'm seeing, there's $3 million, $3,155.46.26. I would hope that that money, part of that money, would go back to the neighborhood that's being impacted the most by this development. So I hope there'll be a look at that. I know there's impact fees too, so that can be utilized in other areas. Looks like my time's running slim. One other final aspect. On the site plan, I saw an above-ground storage facility on the north end of the site, which is adjacent to a residential area. I hope somebody can look at that in this process as well.
Mr. Sermons, that above ground? So when you report back, we can figure out what they're storing on the property and what that above ground container will hold? Yes. But what I'm hearing tonight, we got a little bit more work to do before this comes back to planning and zoning. You got that, Mr. Sermons?
Yes.
We got a lot more work to do before this comes back to us.
Copy that.
So it might be a little more than a month.
Mr. Chair, do we have an idea when this is coming back?
Do we have more speakers? Yeah.
Do we have an idea what date this is coming back?
At this time, no, staff cannot provide a date.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Cherry, do we have more speakers, please?
Yes, sir. Glenn Mark, Teresa Fleischer, Gerald Ward,
Hello, my name is Glenn Mock, and I live at 118 East 24th Street. First of all, thank you for, there's a little chaos with all of us here and people wanting to speak tonight. So appreciate you guys, allowing us a little time. Obviously, there's been a lot brought up tonight. I'm relatively new to the neighborhood, I must admit. I've been to several of these community meetings, and I've heard a lot of the stuff. I was even hesitant to even come up because really, I have nothing to do more than just echo a lot of what you've heard tonight. The biggest concern I've always had, maybe in my own interest, is all the traffic that will be diverted into our neighborhood. A guy from Viking had mentioned the fact that that is going to be a unique little turn to be making for our traffic, not to mentioning anything else that's commercial or industrial as well. I'm still a little unclear even about how we're diverting all the employees away from doing that same thing and coming through our neighborhood instead of waiting through the light, especially if it's backed up. That's the main concern I have. Air quality is another big one. Heard you guys talking about tonight. Drainage, everybody knows about that. Again, I'm just going to echo some of the same stuff that's been said. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing us to have this. And as another gentleman said, please, everybody understanding the layout of the streets, I think is important. All due respect, I could tell from the some of the questions that it was unclear to some of you guys exactly what they're proposing. All due respect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Gerald Ward, 2135 Broadway. That's the southwest corner of 22nd and Broadway, State Road 5. I am super familiar with my office being there with the traffic that goes into the current. And you've heard lots of elements, and I hope I get to talk in the public comment section at the end of the agenda. But I've got some solutions for this project. My business, I used to be in your seat, sir, back in the mid-'80s as a chairman of this board. Ms. Shepherd knows all of what's been said tonight, backwards, forwards, and upside down, and you need to listen to some of her comments. But the design, the attention to detail, I'm the person that probably generated the project, the parcel control number issue, because it's a false document, and we suggest it goes, as the Inspector General of Palm Beach County says, it's criminal, needs to go to the state's attorney, probably. This is a very important document when you make an application. What do you own? And it's false. So as far as the transportation, you can't have the density of access to this facility with boats, large trailers that go in there with the short distance to the guard gate. Mr. Pinsky represents two projects now that have serious problems. The Port of Palm Beach District has a major, we're talking a couple $1 million to solve that problem with the PID funds that they have gotten up to $13 million grants. But this project has the same issue of access. And the access that was generated back with the second traffic light at 22nd Street is not well vetted with the new project. They've expanded. So we've got a lot of things to deal with, and I'll suggest everybody write down their problems and send them to the development director. I'll talk more about that in the public comments at the end.
Thank you, sir.
Brandy Davis Balsano, John Stephen Fleischer, Scott Leming,
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandy Davis Balsamo. I live at 217 East 23rd Street, right next to this development. And a couple of points I want to make. One, as everyone has mentioned, the traffic is a major concern. You can see that in the packet. You can hear everyone's concerns as they talk about that. The solution that was proposed with Avenue D, when it was first proposed, no mention of parking on that street happened. Now, all of a sudden, there's parallel parking. So not only do we have to do this wiggle, but we have to get around the parallel parking people, and then we have to get in the stack to exit. So that's just not viable. Yeah, I know people in Florida don't really parallel park very well, so that's why I call them parallel parking people. But yeah, I would just say that that's just not a viable solution. And for us to have to bleed into a corporate campus to exit doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't think any city would propose something like that. There are 500 plus vehicles that are going to be exiting. Our little residential neighborhood should not be shoved through that same exit. There has to be another path. And I have reached out to TRPRC to try to figure out what the plan is for the Broadway corridor. No one has responded to me. The city has not proposed an alternative solution. They haven't talked about what their plans are for ingress and egress. And at every street in that neighborhood, there's a marina facility, some type of commercial activity, that it has parking. So that's abnormal. That neighborhood has no straight through exit except with that one light. And this is about to get really complicated. So that's that. I haven't heard anything about a hurricane plan. Are those gates going to be open in a hurricane and a named storm? I think that needs to be discussed. Economic development, you know, I hear what you're saying. I worked in economic development. I'd like to see some commitments. If you're saying that our side is against their side, that's not true. We all care about this city. We all care about the greater good, but you can't say that we're up against them in the jobs when you're not actually putting any commitments on paper and jobs and making sure that those are sustained employment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Scott Lemming. I live at 45 East 24th Street. That's the corner of East 24th and Avenue C. Every time a light turns at Broadway and Blue Heron, cars are constantly cutting through our neighborhood, blasting through the stop signs, trying to get over to Singer Island. The same thing happens in the other direction. And when they take away 22nd Street light from us, that's going to back up horribly. I see cars coming both ways. That's a major issue for us. I'm also concerned with the possibility of fuel storage tanks along 22nd Court and where it's going to vent right next to the houses that are on 22nd. Also, the noise of shrink wrapping. When they shrink wrap the yachts, the rosebud torches, that's very loud. Is there going to be time restraints on when they can do that? I hear it from my house, and I'm several blocks away. The house is right next to the facility. It's going to be loud. Also, the impact fee. We have severe drainage problems on our streets. At the end of East 24th, the drainage has been collapsed for years, and the city has done nothing. We have an impact fee coming in, but who's to say that impact fee is even going to be used in our neighborhood? Is there any obligation? No. It can be spent anywhere in Riviera Beach. Our little neighborhood is just going to be avoided again, like it has been for the past, I don't know how many years. I've only lived here for 4, but I haven't seen anything done on our streets. My corner the road is collapsing. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
The comment card for Mr. Fleischer and Ms. Teresa Fleischer,
Could you speak up, ma'am? We
Speak
just
up.
can't
Yes,
hear you.
sorry about that. John Fleischer, he do not wish to speak and he do not support this item. Teresa Fleischer, do not support this item. And last on this item is Anna Bergney.
Sure, those statements you gave out, that's on their comment cards, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Berkney, and I live at 167 East 24th Street. And since I only have 10 minutes, I'm going to get right to it. There are many concerns at Lakeview Park. I recommend that all of you visit Lakeview Park and see for yourselves. I would like to ask the board and the chair to please ask Mr. Sermons if he has looked at all viable options that were recommended by the residents of Lakeview Park. Those recommendations were refused. There are drainage issues in Lakeview Park. There's a concern that with the slab of concrete that Rybovich is going to put down, they had literally put in an application with 92% impervious water that Mr. Sermons and Mr. Bailey were going to accept until we brought it up. So impervious water is still an issue. They have not, I'm not blaming Rybovich. I don't want to say that because truly the city has not done their job in order to allow for Rybovich to do theirs. So I can't say it's all Rybovich, but yes, they can be better neighbors. I want Director Sermons on the record to say that only 7 residents out of Lakeview Park have contacted him. That is not true. We had a walkthrough where we had at least 15. The city engineer and Director Sermons didn't know that there was even an elevated gas tank on the property. They didn't know until we brought it up. And there's concerns about that, along with the garbage cans that are going to be sitting next to property owners. The air pollution, I had to call 911. I've known 3 other residents that have had to do the same thing. They have not reported to OSHA. They have not reported to the Department of Environmental Protection, and this city has a responsibility to protect us. And they have failed to do that in every way.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Travis Bethea, 37 East 24th Street, 18-year resident. I wish I could have took a shower today, but the neighborhood was full of traffic from the diversion off of Blue Heron. So when you close down access and give a little side street, 25th Street, 24th Street, 23rd Street, 22nd Street, you cannot turn north on. So everyone's not going to know how to maneuver through the neighborhood to find an alleyway to get to the traffic light. So it's going to make it even crazier for us. They have 20th Street traffic light. Tell them to use that light and leave this light for the residents. Across from 22nd Street, you are building your city hall. you're gonna have another 500 motor vehicles moving out of there, in and out every day. So you want 500 from them, 100 from Rybovich, 200 from residents, and then 500 from the city on one traffic light, plus 5,000 from Broadway? Too much. Live, work, and play. None of this project is live, work, and play. They didn't give you any businesses going into the storefronts on Broadway. They want to change the zoning from a residential downtown. Tell them to put some residential there, okay? Live, work, and play. That's what this is all about, isn't it? So all of their buildings go up higher. All their elevation is brought up. We are sharing drainage with them. They're telling our outfalls are being closed on 24th Street. Everything's being tied together. They're higher than us. We're going to flood. We have 100-year-old infrastructure in our neighborhood. There is total neglect everywhere. I have videos of power lines sparking and arcing, a house burnt down twice in our neighborhood. Nothing gets fixed. You know, we gave them the option. We said, hey, we all need work together and fix the neighborhood. They said, we're not giving you one extra penny. Let me see here. I got plenty of stuff. I just can't think of it. I'm so tired. Oh. What MSDS reports have they ever given you guys? The material safety data sheets and the chemicals they use to be able to provide you with all information and safety equipment that all their employees are wearing, and what it will affect the residents that are right next door. They're going to butt it right up to the houses. Could you imagine, oh, it's a beautiful wall right in front of your front door. Like, who wants that? You know, that zoning change for the residential neighborhood should not be changed. They need to leave us clear access to a traffic light. And you know what? We could all live together. They're already there. What does the boatyard look like right now? It's all shipping containers around it. Go look at it. It doesn't look nice. It's just shipping containers everywhere. Thank you, guys. I will see you next month, or probably 3 months to settle all this, right?
Mr. Albert Case.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. My name is Albert Case. I live at 38 East 22nd Court, right behind Boat Owners Warehouse, right where you're going to stick Avenue D. I've had to put orange cones in front of my yard to keep boats and trailers from running my grass over, which is the greenest grass on East 22nd Court. If you happen to take a drive down there, I always get complimented on my landscaping. And now you're going to block off Avenue C, which is unbelievable. There's traffic bumps 2 streets north of me, nothing there. You're going to block off Avenue C and have Avenue D there. It's so bad right now that traffic is unbelievable. Where is the traffic going to go from Avenue D? You have Boat Owners Warehouse right there. It's nice that this company wants to develop in here. They have done a wonderful job so far, but you need to look a little further into our neighborhood, okay, before you come even further north. You really need to do your homework and listen to us residents. We have been here. You have been a good neighbor so far, but you're not looking good right now as it stands. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, Ms. Shepherd.
Come back to the podium for 1 minute.
Ms. Shepherd has a question.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Now tell me your name again.
My name is Albert Case.
I do want to compliment you on your grass. But I think mine look better than yours. You have to come by one.
I get complimented all the time.
I stop every time and look at your property and see.
I have so many people ask me, what do I do to it? And I tell them I paint it. And they ask me where I get the paint. And I said, Home Depot. And they'll come back a few weeks later and ask me, you told me a fib. I said, yeah, I did.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Victoria Beggs.
Hi, Tori Bix. I was going to pass because everyone's been here so late, but I just want to thank you all. I know we're all on the same page, trying to make our neighborhood, our city, the best it can be. Thank you for letting us speak, because I think we all realize that there's more behind everything than we knew when we first arrived. At least I speak for myself. And I would just like to hope that we can all come together the next time with everything in order so we can make a good decision and we feel confident that our needs are being met and the city's needs are being met, and there's nothing that is underneath that we don't know about. Thank you again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Philip Ruotolo.
Who else, Ms. Sherry?
Daniel Gilbert.
Did you ever hear that name, Daniel Miller? Yep, right behind this gentleman. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. I'm Phil Rotolo. I live at 196 East 22nd Court. So I am at B Avenue and 22nd Court, 44 years. So if this project goes through, I was late coming here tonight because cars coming off the bridge took Avenue B. They had a shortcut to Broadway through the stop signs and up 22nd Court. Traffic is a problem. But if you live where I live and you walk out my door, I hear boats being repaired now, and there is no super yacht center there. There are times that the air quality there where we have to shut the windows because it's bad and it makes you dizzy. Do we call anybody? No. We shut the windows, go back in the house. I never asked for sidewalks on 22nd Court on our side, because if you do that, you're going to take away the parking.
Right.
So whoever said, the first speaker said, oh, sidewalks on 22nd Court. No, sir. I didn't ask for them, and none of my neighbors did. And by the way, Viking was up here. They're not good neighbors either. They own 2 houses up from me, which they let go, didn't repair, sold one, and the other one's still existing with no repairs. So I don't believe them either. I would like to see the project go through, but a whole lot of questions have to be answered. I don't want to walk out the door and look at a gate, an 8-foot wall, trees, and some other buildings there. I've been here too long. I do not want Riviera Beach to let me down.
Thank you, Mr. Phil. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Daniel Gilbert. I'm 2100 Broadway, Seashell City business. And to start, I was born and raised in that business. My mom has had that since 1969. We've paid taxes for over 50 years to contribute to what we hope to be a great city, right? So when our property control number was on that list that said we don't own it, my heart jumped, because that's my past, present, and future right there. It's worth more than money to me. So I'm here just to make sure and just to
Boats on them, trailers, etc. So I think our team needs to go back out there to address the traffic concerns. Maybe we can find out a way with Safe Harbor to figure out good usage of the roadways, so our residents will be at least happy with what we can do. Now, today, we can never prevent in the city fire department and police department from blocking our roadways. It happened today, and that's why everybody was detouring all over the place. But maybe we can address the traffic concerns, the drainage issue, the storage containers that were going to be on property, because I already wrote that down. Those are the questions I'm going to ask at the next meeting. What's going to be stored? Where is it going to be stored? Parking. I'm going to be asking questions on the sidewalks. If you put up a sidewalk, so you're getting rid of the parking, the parallel parking. If we get rid of the parallel parking, where are folks supposed to park? And the most things that I'm really disheartened is the PCN numbers. Not that I don't trust the work of the developers, property owners who bring it to the city, and we're taking it on good faith. But we would have voted on something tonight on properties that are owned by others as part of this plan. So I'm hoping it was an oversight and that we can rectify that in the future. Yes, Mr. Pinsky, can you at least go over and address some of the concerns here and maybe go back to the community and have another meeting with them before you come here?
Absolutely.
Please do that. Another
Yes.
meeting with the community. And please advertise it somewhere where they know, so they can go to that meeting. And how have you addressed these concerns?
And it's unfortunate that we did not get to finish. Actually, it was suggested, for the record, early on, as soon as we knew there was more than an oversight, we had our subcontractor who surveyed, checked all the PCNs, checked the property, heard the concerns we have the wrong numbers, went back, verified. We thought it was represented to us. And so your staff, Mr. Sermons, your attorney, Glenn Torsivia, Kurt Thompson, it still did not jive. That's when we said, Jack in the Box jumping up and down. Our suggestion was shut it down right now. But I think you're correct, and let's hear the concerns. But I don't want to leave here tonight with the perception that we've not heard this before and that we have addressed all of the concerns to the best of our ability. What I was trying to make the point, not choose between neighborhood and everyone west of Broadway, the 30,000 people that are waiting for jobs and employment. What I was trying to say was, how do you take what is legitimate neighborhood concern and the people west of Broadway legitimate concern? How do you put those two together? And that's all I was saying, not choose one or the other, but that's a difficult task before you and for the city council. That is a serious issue that planning and zoning works on. Regarding the traffic, the neighborhood has been neglected. Totally agree. I've been around here for 30 years, and I know about that neighborhood, the cutting through from Blue Heron. That's not something we created, but the city has not, in our opinion, not adequately addressed those concerns. How do you do that? Do you do that speed bumps? We've offered to pay for those speed bumps, whatever it is to protect that neighborhood. Our suggestion, you heard all the traffic. The easiest way is residential only. No commercial traffic is allowed on 22nd Court. That's what we were doing. If the neighbors want commercial traffic to run through their neighborhood, then I guess we could take the wall down. But we're trying to figure out, the people that were not here tonight do not want any commercial traffic. They want the wall. So we're trying to figure out, these are not new comments, as far as the flooding and the draining, we're fixing 22nd Court. We're putting in a new outfall pipe that will have an observation deck, or some people don't even want that. They want a dog park. So we're willing to pay and do all these things, but it's not our responsibility to fix the neighborhood. Yes, the $3 million that we're paying, that was our suggestion. That was first presented by us, that money should stay in the neighborhood. I don't necessarily think that the city council would agree with that, because they have needs all over the city. But we're advocating for that because they have been neglected. They're going to be waiting in line for a long time to fix those issues that you heard tonight. But the traffic can be fixed easily. Right now, when workers are coming into the property, they're coming in the morning when neighbors are leaving. And in the afternoon, when workers are leaving, neighbors are coming back home. So the traffic flow, we've done 3 different traffic studies. It's going to be adequate. It'll match it. Avenue D, we don't want parking on Avenue D. Your staff was trying to suggest an alternative, not hardened concrete. We'll take the parking on D off right now. But your staff has to agree to all of those. On Broadway, we've offered so many times. Do you want us to put restaurants in there? Do you want us to put retail in there? If you don't have any tenants, we can fill it with everybody that's driving up. The 250 people that drive up every day from Fort Lauderdale just need a shop. They need a place to train and mentor new workers. We'll turn it into that. Whatever the city wants, we'll turn those retail stores into that. We're not coming to you to say this is what it must be. We're trying to figure out how the people west of Broadway want jobs, and they want that Rybovich to be the fullest it could possibly be, because it means an economic future for them. The neighborhood needs to be treated better. How do you do that? We're going to do everything we can to make sure the neighborhood is protected, that they're taken care of. We've not ignored any of those concerns. We'll meet again. We'll meet 10 times. But you're still going to have to figure out how you take care of that neighborhood. That's the problem. That neighborhood has been neglected. Thank you.
Well, I've got a couple of questions here. I understand that tonight I heard it was one of the meetings they offered retail. Tonight, no retail. Now you're saying that the city, you offered it to the city. So why don't we come up with a plan with the city to tell us what exactly is going in there? Okay, retail wise, restaurant wise, how they would access it, where would they park? And then on the jobs, I have sat on this board for almost 2 years now, and we've pressed for jobs, jobs, jobs. And everybody comes in here and says, we're offering jobs. But then when we look at it, where are the jobs?
Would you like me to show you the economic proof? We don't have time. We don't have time tonight. When we come back.
For the next
but,
meeting.
But the economic impact is in the tens of millions of dollars. We cannot handle what we have in West Palm Beach. That's why we're moving up here. The business is going to triple. People are coming from all over the world. The issue with the restaurants and the retail was we have said to the city staff, we said to the city manager, we've said it to Clarence, we said it to city council members, you're not ready for us. You have no idea. Every day, 500 people are going to be wandering around looking for a place to eat, looking for a place to buy something. You're not ready.
Then
Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council is supposed to be coming up with a corridor. City Hall is going to be built. You're creating a downtown. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council is not looking for a speeding thoroughfare. They want to slow traffic down. They don't want people rushing out on Broadway and turning and whatnot. They're trying to create a walkable downtown. You've never had that before. We're going to be part of that. We're supplying you the people to create a downtown. So when I say we didn't refuse to do retail or we didn't refuse to do anything, every time we have a meeting, somebody goes, well, we don't want that. We want this. So all we've said all along is whatever the city wants, we don't have to decide that now. That's 2 years from now. Whatever naturally happens, we can do it that way. But there's nothing hard fast. There's plenty of parking behind the buildings. You're going to have parking across the street. We've asked for a park. We've asked for a walkover between City Hall. Our people are going to need a place to eat. It's a working together of building what's going to be a new Broadway corridor that you've never had. But we still have to fix the neighborhood. You can't neglect that either.
Ms. Shepherd, can we go down? We'll go down the line for questions. Ms. Shepherd?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Penske, I live on 23rd. I turn right, I think, right C. And I want to say your workers come out of there. I mean, they don't
Now,
even care.
yes.
If I didn't know the neighborhood, I would really get out there and someone would hit me. I know on the one side you have where they monitor the speed, but I think you should monitor the speed and put a stop sign. It need to be a four-way stop because they will run you over. And if you're going to triple in size, which I know you are, there's no doubt in my mind that Rybovich Viking is here. I have open mind that the plan, whether I say yes or no, you're here. But for the safety of the people, I think you ought to stop and try to make sure we're safe. My grandchildren come here and they drive like and I'm afraid when they go down that street, somebody's going to run into them. So I hope you look at that, put another sign there and let them know they have to slow down. I know it's one on 22nd, but the next street over. You need either stop signs or something to monitor their speed.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll respond. So, and I know Viking has done the same thing, and we're both trying to work a working waterfront in the context of where we find ourselves. Like I said, the port, Cracker Boy, the marina, Viking, Lockheed, Viking, Rybovich, we're the last. That 1 mile, you could change that section of Broadway and call it Marina Mile. We're the last working waterfront. So we know the context we're in, but we got no other place to go. We either have to move out of the area or we have to survive where we are. So we appreciate all of the comments. We're trying to do the best we can, but you may have to think about Broadway. Somebody said maybe you need additional light. You put a median, which I understand, but you may need to do some more median cuts. The only reason why people are coming through onto 22nd, if that new configuration, is because they want to turn south. They can still go up 22nd Court, turn right. They go up 23rd, turn right. Everybody can still turn right. It's the people that want to go south.
Right.
And that's an issue that Riviera Beach needs to resolve.
Well, just for our safety, I just think you need to look a little bit more.
That's what I was going to say. The Viking and us, we've been telling our workers, stop
Yeah.
driving through the neighborhoods. Viking has posted the signs. We've posted the signs. We're trying to stop our workers from going. But once we get a wall up and it's landscaped, and it will be beautiful, the drainage will all be fixed. That's how you restore the neighborhood back to a peaceful. I will say there's no storage units. We were asked to move them, although by right, we could put them there in working waterfront, but we're not going to. That area is not going to be storage. Those buildings that you saw, those are the shops that are going to be done. There's an awning and a canvas. Those are the types of shops that are going to be there. All the painting, all of those things, it's all shrink wrap. They're all done at the south end of our property. That's the way it is now. So there's going to be no fumes. We don't have any fuel storage tanks. We don't have any chemical storage. Those things are just not true. We have a clean marina designation, one of the few of our size that has that designation. The Department of Environmental Protection comes and regularly monitors. Right now, you have the ability, and Clarence Sermons knows this, we've talked about it, and I know he sometimes gets frustrated, and rightfully so, because you have limited resources. But your code enforcement, they can go right now and measure decibels on noise.
Chair.
If you violate it, it's over. They can measure fumes. If it's bad, they can do it.
Questions from the rest of the board?
Yes. Ms. Shepherd, is there anything else?
Yes, I'm through. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Brown?
I'm just going to piggyback on something that the others have said. I just want to make sure that we have approval documents from all the owners on the east side of Avenue B. And I think that's the only part that we're missing approval stuff, because we have no documents for the abandonment at all. I haven't seen anything in the package.
What in particular? I'm sorry.
I'm looking for an approval from the owners east of Avenue B.
East of Avenue B? Oh.
Yes. I think there are only two.
Yeah, without, and we've been speaking. We thought we were going to have that approval because there's a separate agreement between us that we're going to provide parking to them and they won't reject, they won't object to a road abandonment. They want us to look at how their ingress and egress, because we're trying to keep everything in the campus. So we're still talking, and their attorney that was here tonight, and the folks from Viking are here. So hopefully by when we come back, you'll have that. We were prepared not to abandon B, although that would mean traffic going back into the neighborhood again. So we're trying to avoid that. But yes, hopefully, whether it's 30 days, 40, the next time, we'll hopefully have that in place.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Burgess?
Yes, Mr. Penske, in the essence of time, I don't need a long, drawn-out response. I just want to know if you're going to be able to do this. So I would like for you to provide a list of the job titles that this project will require and employ, projected, so that's during and after completion of the project, with salaries and job descriptions.
Yeah, and right now, without a long drawn-out response, the answer is yes, but we do have a 46% minority workforce profile right now.
Okay, just want to see it written up.
Yeah, and we'll provide that, and that we intend to hold the same standard that we have now. Matter of fact, a number of our jobs come from folks in Riviera Beach.
All right,
And they're great jobs for advancement.
thank you.
Also training, and if you go into our high schools and offer training opportunities as well. They used to call the internships with the unions back in the day. Like that's, I don't know where that went, tradecraft. But if we have any training.
We do that now. Matter of fact, yes, we do that now when we work with Inlet Grove. We work, well, we used to work with the Old Marine Institute, but our subcontractors have a mentoring program, And we need that because otherwise we can't grow. So we have a training program in place right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, real quick, are you saying you want that in writing as well?
Yes, everything we say we want it, because we're gonna ask it again. And like I told before, Mr. Sermons, I don't want to keep tabling this until we get everything in the right path here. And
I'll
you've
do
heard
that.
everybody
Mr. Sermons can't do that. I'll do that one.
in writing.
Yes, sir. I was about to piggyback off what she just stated. One thing we want to, just for the community to be able to know about jobs, potential job fairs, what qualifications that people will need to have to be able to apply for these positions, what certifications, what licenses they'll need, and just to get prepared. So when you are here, because the size of your facility, of course, I knew the West Palm Beach area, and like you said, it got too big for that area. So if suddenly you're going to move here to a bigger area, which means there will be more jobs, and that'd be great. So just again, when we come back here, please have that in writing or in something, someone from Human Resources to be able to present that information, just so everyone will know exactly what they would need, what they will qualify for, what licenses they'll need, what certification they would need, just so when the opportunity comes for employment opportunities, they'll be ready, prepared for that. And you said also earlier that you also have a training program there also, correct? So for someone who does not have certifications and everything, you will be providing that also, correct?
Correct.
All right.
I'd love to take the time to explain to you how wonderful it is and the folks that can start at entry level, what it is. Leah Gaines, who I introduced earlier, has been all over the city. While the neighborhood has their issues, yes,
Right.
but that was the number one issue from throughout the city was how do I get a job? And how is me as an electrician can learn how to work on a boat?
Absolutely.
That's been the number one issue.
Let's keep getting that message across clearly across
Thank
the
you.
city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Clark?
Just to piggyback on jobs, the last meeting with Safe Harbor, I was there. You had your Human Resources Director that was there at Inlet Grove, I believe.
Correct.
And he gave very general. I was somewhat disappointed, and I said to him that we wanted our youth to have jobs such as their accountants, their marketing people, their e-commerce managers, their IT people, not necessarily the lower entry-level jobs. Those are the type of jobs that we want to see our youth, if you have those opportunities to market as well as to collaborate with our HR department here at the city. There was also recommended different entities within West Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, et cetera, to find the people, because I understood what the HR manager said, that you went to other municipalities, hired those people and brought them into Riviera Beach, and they don't live here, they don't spend here, they work here, and they move out. So hopefully there'll be a paradigm shift on that. Also, too, I appreciate the things that you shared tonight, which is now documented and on record, because I heard a lot of information tonight that was different than what I heard at the meeting from Safe Harbor, and I'm sure the residents heard that too. But you've said it, I appreciate it, and it's here on record. Also, too, I just want to say I thank you for your time and patience. We shifted into 2 minutes here, so I hope you don't take the situation personally.
No.
I appreciate you staying and being here and opening up and listening to the residents and responding here. And I also like to say that I'm pretty sure that our city council should be tuning in to this P&Z meeting, and we don't have to necessarily regurgitate everything. I think everybody has said enough. And to the residents, I would recommend, if you have any concerns, email, call your elected officials and tell them, make sure you watch this P&Z meeting, because I said what I had to say. And hopefully everything will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Barnes?
Yeah, a couple items. One, I see a lot of potential for this project. I mean, it's a big deal, big opportunities, really.
Can you speak into your mic? I can't
I am
hear.
speaking into the mic. Hello? So again, lots of big potential here. Disappointed that you guys would be showing that you own property that residents here own. Having these property control numbers screwed up is just unforgivable when we've got our residents sitting here who say, I own this property, and you present to us that you own it. It brings for me a whole lot of questions over the validity of a lot of the things that you're presenting. Following that, when I hear you all present that you have all the approved agreements of everyone for the abandonment, and then I have someone from Viking come up and say, no, you don't. Again, it just brings a lot of doubt to me as to what you're actually presenting to us. I think you do need to look at East 22nd Street and Avenue D and how you're going to allow the residents, that's the only way they can go southbound, and how you're going to allow all that to happen. I'm not a traffic engineer, don't pretend to be one, but there's not a lot of room there for someone to make a left turn to get southbound on Broadway. You talk a lot about being a good neighbor. I think you're going to have the opportunity to put your money where your mouth is and be a good neighbor to the neighborhood that's here and to the city of Riviera Beach. That's all I've got.
Okay, so thank you very much. There's no excuse for the PCN numbers, especially since we knew it in advance. I have an adage I live by, and that's usually, that's a rookie mistake. That should not have happened. We did try to pull the plug as soon as we realized it, and I respect the chair, and I think it was a good process tonight to go forward, but we did not want to present that we own those parcels because we realized it had not been corrected. Thought it had been, and I take full responsibility because I did not triple check it. And when someone tells you, oh no, it's all fixed now, I actually believe that. So I apologize. The agreement, not to get into a legal issue, I think it's in your packet. We have a legal document that we believe they do not, Viking doesn't oppose an abandonment. That's going to be a legal issue. Hopefully that won't arise. We think that when the owner is back from fishing in Costa Rica, we can quickly get that resolved. So we were not trying to misrepresent anything, and I think that'll be resolved equitably. And all I can say is what we have presented. You don't have to take my word or what we're putting up on a slide. I would direct you to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, any of the facilities that we have said what we were going to do and we've done. They're exemplary. So they would stand on their own. You don't need me to put up on a slide and tell you something. So I would ask you to look at our track record and look at what we've done. And that's how you can find out. We do hire from Career Source. We take folks right out of prison. We have an exemplary hiring program, but they also have a career path up. And there's a number of folks that started in at the entry level and have advanced in the corporation. So we're proud of that too.
Thank you very much. Don't forget that community meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Shepherd.
May I thank you for allowing the people to speak? I appreciate you for stopping and allowing them to go on.
I'd like to thank Mr. Sermons and our attorneys
Yeah.
who
And most of all, let us thank our police officers, the men in blue. They did their job tonight. I'm very proud of them. They are awesome.
Absolutely.
They took control right away. We never had this incident like this since I've been on the board, and it'd be 17 years in June, I think. And I've never seen it, but I appreciate my police officers, and most of all, our interim chief, Mr. What is the last name? Get old now.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes. How could I forget it? I'm talking about him today. So I appreciate you for taking control, the men and women of blue. I appreciate it. And I want to appreciate Ms. Gaines for being here. She's a stellar woman. Stand up, Ms. Gaines, because a lot of people know her. She's a peacemaker. And I want to say anything that you want to say, call her up. She's right there. And if we didn't have Ms. Gaines, and she's in West Palm Beach, she's everywhere. You will see her name and pictures on Facebook and she come from a good source family. So thank you again for coming out. I appreciate my neighbors. I appreciate you walking past my door with your dogs and your kids, and it just makes me feel safe being in a neighborhood for 11 years. So I thank you very much for coming. And once again, Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sermons, for not letting us go on with this without us digging a little bit more into it. Thank you
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Sermons.
I
Chair.
appreciate it.
Now, can we move on to
Chair,
our
motion.
next workshop items?
Well, Chair, do we need a motion to table new business, all the new items on new business?
They actually withdrew it, but we can, just for the record.
Did we withdraw it, or do we need to table it?
They wanted to withdraw it. Do you still want our motion to table it? Yes, Mr. Burgess?
I was going to make a motion to continue this matter once staff has all of the questions and responses read into the record tonight.
Have a second?
Second.
You sure?
Margaret Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. James Gallen. Mr. William Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Evelyn Harris Clark.
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Brown.
Yes.
Sir Russell Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
Your motion passed.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Sermons, workshop items.
No workshop items from staff today, Mr. Chair.
We had public comments throughout. If anybody wants to come up and there's a public, just make sure we don't repeat what we have already discussed.
And Mr. Chair, I would say we have 3 public comment cards, and at this time, we would close the floor for additional submittals.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Please introduce yourself again, sir.
I'm Gary Ward, 2135 Broadway. The board has routinely, over the last 50 years that I've been involved, and actually I started in December of 1965 working in the great city of Riviera Beach. But things like the FPL tank farm in the 1974 era, around the turn of a little before the turn of the century, the new FPL plant had a workshop. I would tell you that this city, we had charrettes. We generated the first CRA plan, 1987. Things of this major nature. This is 20 some odd acres. It's a big project compared to what you deal with normally, which is an acre or less usually. Workshops give you the flexibility of just bringing out. And people in Riviera Beach continually have more common sense solutions to problems. So it's important that when you get a project of this major nature, now this was really conceived in the charrette around the turn of the century, run by Treasure Coast. And things of that nature need to be fleshed out when you get to details. The details is what caused the problem tonight. There was a lack of attention to details. And so I would hope you would consider a workshop as the next element of a major controversy. We generated the zoning of east of Broadway. We talked about getting rid of trailer parks. Devander did not want trailer parks. He was our CDEC director from the. Let's think about something that's a little more information gathering before we jump to a formal proceeding of 7 items.
Thank you, sir.
Thane Lozman. I was the First Amendment Foundation Man of the Year in 2018. So you should be familiar with the Sunshine Law and have a manual for it to understand the proper procedures. I just want to say, for the record, non-agenda public comment is 3 minutes. When you have a specific item and you have 100 people want to talk, it's 2 minutes. Or it's not. He should have another minute to talk about what he wants to talk about. This is the non-agenda item. One of the things I've had the chance, before I moved up here, I lived in North Bay Village when I moved down from Chicago, before I was in the Marine Corps. North Bay Village, they have communities where they have a single access gate, or maybe 2 single access gates. So you can't get in that neighborhood unless you have a key card or unless you've made, somebody calls you and you let them in. So they could make that a more elite community than it is now by putting up gates, and nobody can get in there unless you're a resident or a guest. So there's ways to do that. If they want to turn left down Broadway, there's ways to do that. Even if they come out on the north side and go down Blue Heron, it would make it an exclusive gated community. I haven't heard anybody discuss that. The other thing about Viking is there's a lot of bad blood between me and Viking and the people in the businesses. Seashell City, if she hadn't started crying, I never would have fought that fight. Because Viking threatened to take her property away via eminent domain. Viking is an evil company. But Ms. Shepherd probably remembers Viking got 21st Street abandoned when they moved in there. They had both sides of the road and they got it abandoned, even though that was an access way for people to get to the water. So remember who Viking is. Viking for 10 years dragged out being the master developer. Governor Bush sent the FDLE to look into what Viking did in 2006. So Viking is not some good neighbor. The thing about Safe Harbor is owned by a much bigger company called Sun Communities on the New York Stock Exchange, SUI. They're a $16 billion company. So it's just not Safe Harbor. They're part of Sun Communities. I think that's important because some of the jobs and stuff, you could say, what can Sun Communities offer, who's a major manufactured house and RVs? Safe Harbor is only at $2 billion of that $16 billion. This is a conglomerate. I'm surprised that some of the errors happened tonight. But remember, it's Sun Communities, and Safe Harbor is just a subsidiary of Sun Communities.
Thank you, sir.
Hello again, Nora Mahoney, 2120 Broadway. The only comment I would like to ask you, to all of you, is because we don't want to have surprises. We would like to be notified of any changes or anything that can happen in our area, especially our businesses. I did not receive anything. Everything that I have, it took me for surprise. I had to research, I had to print the papers, I had to read 522 pages, and I felt like, what's going on? I mean, they forgot about us, and somebody called us, one of the neighbors. I said, do you know what is going on? And I said, what is going on? I didn't know anything about it. So can you please make a point to notify people what is going on so I can attend the meeting and suggest something or say something? That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Sermons, our notification process, we've gone through this in the past. I know I've asked it a couple of times. Could you please state for the record, what is our notification process?
Yes, for any project requiring a zone change, there is an applicant-initiated zone change. There is a required 15-day notice of signs being posted on the property and mailers sent to the addresses of properties within 300 feet for P&Z meetings. For city council, there are also some additional state required notifications for the newspaper.
Well, some of the individuals here did not get noticed, so maybe you could find out after the meeting and make sure you get noticed. Okay, next on the agenda, staff updates.
All right, for staff updates, the first one we have is a comprehensive plan update, and I will yield the floor to Principal Planner Sinead Simon to provide you with that.
And that's going to be in the back of our book. The last page in our books. She just updated it and brought it in here.
All right, my audience is gone. Well, for the record, my name is Sinead Simon, the Principal Planner. And I'll be updating you about the Comprehensive Plan 2040. And I'm excited that we're all here still. And we're gonna do our best to go through it in a manner that is energized and exercised. So also in your books, I just added in, you had one that was last updated on March 15th. I removed it and put a new one that was updated today, the 23rd of March. For you to have a more thorough update. Right now, we're working with our consultants, Calvin Giordano and Associates, in a data collection phase, as well as in which we'll begin an assessment of where are we as a city, understanding what are the conditions of our city. We heard some constituents today talking about the conditions of their neighborhoods. And so we'll be getting more of that information so that we are better prepared to address how we move forward as a city. Those are just great examples of what we'll be getting from our consultants. So right now I'm going to update you on what we've been doing in order to get towards starting to talking more with our community members. And so far we've completed most of our one-on-ones. We completed every one on our planning and zoning. Thank you very much, Ms. Shepherd, for doing our last one. That was great. We got to do it in person. And now we have left over one council member as well as our mayor. We've also been doing individual meetings with our staff and directors. And so we are working right now with different directors and staff members that they appoint to go into their place to understand their role within the comprehensive plan and the work that they're doing. The pictures that you'll see is from, we did a couple of tours where we did a tour of understanding our parks that we have in the community, what are some of the needs of our parks and what's going on with the futures of our parks, and even some of the ideas that they came up with co-locating with our schools and how do we take advantage of the space that we have and the lack of space that we have. How do we address that, and coming up with creative solutions of working with the different entities here in the city and in our county. Another part you'll see at the bottom picture is we were working with Deputy City Manager McBride as we drove around to look at some of our neighborhoods and some of the work that she's been doing with the rest of our team in order to, how do we improve our different communities that we have here in Riviera Beach. We've done other updates with some of our team members, and we will continue doing with the rest of our team. We began reviewing the Comp Plan's website. So I forgot to do that one. Comp Plan's website. So we do have a website that will be coming up for our comp plan. So that way all of our constituents and community members are able to go on to be able to engage in some of the activities that will, in some of the surveys and questions that we have for what do they feel about their area? What do they think that we need to do? How do they feel about what we've been doing? And how do we improve together? And so that will be, it's called Riviera 2040. And we'll speak more about that. And so you'll see more information coming out about that website as we finalize it. And another thing is that we've been working with our communications team. So special thank you to Walter and Ms. Valerie Grimsley, as they've been working with us in order to make sure that we can have a great commercial and to push this out. Get people to come out, just like some of the folks that came out today, get people to come out to participate. So that way, as we build our comprehensive plan, it's one that is community-led and that we're able to say that what we're talking about is the vision of Riviera Beach. The picture that you see here will be snippets that you'll see in our commercial as we have different stakeholders in our community. And actually, we'd love to add you on, you guys, at Dee's T-shirt to be a part of that commercial, just to understand we've been here in Riviera Beach. How are we looking at moving forward? Also, we were able to have, actually this happened yesterday with our YEP program, we were able to get some of the inputs from our youth. They're the ones that are inheriting the community. So what do you want to see here in your community? And they were amazing. So this was in your papers, it says that it was a 2-day, but it actually ended up being a 1-day. And it was an amazing 1 day, what they were able to come up with. Some of the things that they came up with, they started saying, how do I build my community? And so they wanted to see more economic investments. They wanted to see more compact community. They wanted to see more modern homes and buildings and businesses coming in, better landscaping. They talked about youth involvement. They talked about transportation, different access to get around, and what are these different ways besides just a car, right? How do we make sure that we're able to use our community in the best way in order for us to have a higher quality of life? Amazing students. One of the things that I found that was really pertinent, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but I'm going to read it to you as best as I can with my little eyes. But she said, many tourists and visitors know Riviera Beach for their beaches, but they do not know of or acknowledge the heart of Riviera. I thought that was sad. And then she continued, the people make up Riviera. We live here and know what our city needs. These upcoming improvements that they were about to share will allow Riviera Beach to be the home, will be known for more than just the beautiful waterfront, but also a way to attract more people. So this was their way of introducing on how they were going to improve their city. And so now we're going into the space of like where we want to make sure the rest of the community will be participating in such a way. So we have these different ways that we're bringing up with. On the 18th of April, we'll have our first, I wrote Marina Convention. I do apologize, Marina Event Center. We'll have our first community meeting at the Marina Event Center at 6 p.m. on April 18th. That'll be here. We also have a new phone line that people will be able to call in to leave their comments. And we also have a new email address that you'll be able to send over information. This is all before our website, which you'll also get that information for our website once it's finalized. But this is our, go back. This is the update from our plan. You can have greater details in the one that's in your packet as well. So if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer them. But this is what we've been doing and what we've been up to and how we plan on going forward.
I love your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shepherd?
Mr. Sherman, I don't know what you're gonna do, but you better keep her. This is the most enjoyable lady I've ever met in my life.
Oh, no.
She was at Lindsay Davis and the Guard with us. And I tell you, she really just fit in with us old people over there.
It's my
I personally
jam.
want to thank her.
We
And don't you
enjoyed
go nowhere either.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll come for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
No comments.
Burgess?
No comments, but thank you, Sunit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we updated your non-compete, your contract, 500 miles. In case you decide to leave us, you can work anywhere.
500 miles.
500 non-compete clause. We already incorporating that. Mr. Sermons, I have a quick question.
Sir.
I know I've talked to Mr. Evans and Mr. Johnson on infrastructure in Riviera Beach. There are plans. Apparently that message is not getting out to our residents. Can we please stress to them we need better communications on our infrastructure improvement plans and where Riviera Beach is headed, what we're working on, and that the city is not just sitting idle. That make sense?
Understood.
So let's get the message out. All right. Correspondence? Employment updates? It's under 10, Mr.
Yes. So I did some research since our last meetings, and there were 3 projects that had employment-related components that I can provide updates on. The first that was asked about was Sunstar Logistics, which is going by the name Ozinga. They are the ones that constructed the dome at the Port of Palm Beach. So as far as the dome itself, there was a question on when it's going to have the additional design and amenities that were discussed by this board and approved by council. They've let us know that they will begin assembling the sign that will say Riviera Beach on it. They expect that March 28th is the date they gave us, with construction of lifting it into place starting early April. So very soon you should see Riviera Beach on the north and south sides of that dome at the Port of Palm Beach. They are, so they also had an employment component associated with the resolution approving their project. So they have gotten to the very early stages of hiring. They are coordinating with the city right now to do targeted marketing for those jobs within the city. And their resolution requires that a certain number of days after they get their CO, meaning completed and opening operations, that they, at that point, they have to report to the city on how successful they've been with the marketing and recruiting locally. And so that milestone has not come up yet, and they are currently working with the city to get the job fairs and the targeted marketing campaign out to the community. So that is Ozinga. The second one is Amazon, who had stipulations related to employment connected to their resolution. Amazon did not open as expected, the facility that they created here. It was intended to be a distribution center when it was when it was purchased and renovated, that structure off of 1301 MOK, that was during the pandemic time, and they were dealing with different demands during that time versus now. And the company has restructured a lot of those facilities that they acquired and constructed during that time. And their plans for the one in Riviera Beach now is to be a last mile facility, is what they call it. So there are certain items you can order on their website and get the next day or within 24 hours, and it's based on them having last mile facilities in the area. So this one is now being converted to that. So it's required them to redesign the inside of it and make some minor site plan amendments to the exterior. They are minor within the 5% threshold that staff does administratively. So we have just about completed the review of it. And on the inside, because of the new type of facility, it will actually utilize more jobs and more bodies inside of the facility to work and distribute those items than the previous plan for a regional distribution center. So they are underway with that. And at this time, they have not started recruitment for it. They did provide the report that they were required to do based on their resolution of what job recruitment activities that they've done thus far. In their case, it was 0 because they have not opened yet. And we will make sure that once they do begin hiring, that they're working with the city again for targeted marketing for local residents for those jobs. And then finally, there is the duplex project brought up by Ms. Shepherd at the previous, Board Member Shepherd at the previous meeting. I have requested the employment report from them so they can show what types of employment they had during that project, but they are complete with construction at this point. I think they just had some final landscaping that staff was inspecting. And that would conclude the report on jobs as requested.
Our next planning and zoning meeting is scheduled for April 13th, 2023. Am I correct? According to the,
That's correct. And we will update you on agenda and any items that are slated for that one as soon as we have that nailed down. At this time, for the item you heard today, obviously, there are a lot of things that need to be addressed. So as soon as we are confident that they have been addressed, we will notify you and bring it at that time. But we can't provide a date certain at this point, as I'm sure you're understanding of.
thank you, sir. Any board comments, Ms. Shepherd?
No comment, sir.
Brown?
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Burgess?
No comments.
No comments from me?
No
Mr. Wiley?
comment.
Yes, Chair, I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Barr.
Yes, we had a precedent set tonight, and that is we allowed our applicant guests to defend their business case. I appreciate that. But that has been a precedent that has set. Prior meetings, we had allowed one applicant only 3 or 5 minutes, and it was not very good of us to do that. So I'm saying that since this precedent has been set and moving forward, if a scenario presents itself again where applicant is going to defend their business case and they've been given that amount of time, it's going to happen to everybody moving forward. If it doesn't, I'm going to object because the precedent has been set.
For the record, I don't think we've ever stopped any applicant from continuing or asking after we ask any questions.
Yes, we did.
I have when I was chair.
Okay. Sorry about that.
And yes, we did have an applicant
Perfect.
that we stopped. I remember the attorney was rushing through her 5 minutes.
How's that?
But that's okay.
It's okay,
But
thank
we
you.
set a precedent, so this is it moving forward.
You got it. Mr. Barnes?
No comment.
Okay, if there's nothing else, it is 10:06 PM. Do I have a vote to adjourn?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm out. Ms. Sherry.
my apologies, sir. Under C for correspondence, we do have one correspondence submitted.
From where? I'm sorry, you said, I can't hear you.
Okay, we do have one correspondence that was submitted.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the correspondence is from Mike Mahoney, D's T-shirts, 2120 Broadway, Riviera Beach.
Thank you. Have a vote, a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All
Aye.
agree? Aye. 10:07. Thank you very much.
Oh, my goodness.